What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto returns Konoha with his family? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Time skip 8 years later. In the center of the Leaf's administrative district sat the Hokage Tower, the tallest building in the town. Sitting behind a large wooden desk stacked with so much paperwork that piles have begun to form on the floor was the newly reinstated third Hokage. Damn it, how in the nine hells did Minato get this shit done so fast? Sarutobi thought as he signed page after page, either approving or denying each paper's request. He looked out the window and onto the darkening village, which was preparing. His thoughts turned to the young blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy that Sarutobi considered his surrogate grandson. Thinking about the boy, his thoughts turned dark as he remembered the stupidity of the council. Flashback no jutsu. Woohoo, my first flashback. It has been 3 weeks since the Kyuubi attack and Sarutobi was reinstated as Hokage. Unfortunately for 2 of those weeks he was incapacitated because of injuries he sustained when a building he was standing by exploded when it was struck by one of the creature's massive tails. Unfortunately, while he was incapacitated, the civilian council had already began a mad dash for power. As he headed for the council chambers, he was wondering how they were going to take Naruto's Sadits as the Kyuubi's container. In truth, he was actually planning on keeping it a secret. As he pushed open the 2 massive wooden doors that lead into the council room, it got really quiet real fast. This can't be good, the old Hokage thought. Looking around the room, he noticed all the clan heads except for the Uchiha, Hyuga, and Abroom clans were giving the civilian council a look that would turn Medusa to stone. Alright, let's get down to business, Sarutobi stated. Let's start with our defense, Shikaku. The old man looked to a man with a pineapple-shaped haircut, looked up at the old man and said, "Troublesome, the damage we suffered was considerably less than we first feared. We lost about 2/5 of the south wall, and about 1/3 of the village was damaged, mostly in the housing district. As for our shinobi forces, we took a hefty toll. About 1/5 of our forces have been confirmed dead or missing, and 1/4 of our forces have been confirmed as severely injured. A fourth of that will be unable to continue as a shinobi. The civilian population suffered a loss of about 1/10, mostly older folk who could not stand the ki released from the beast, and the rest to damage done by its tails. As for clan damage, I can only speak for my clan. We suffered light losses after we discovered our shadow technique was useless against such a creature. All in all, we should be up and running at 75% power in about 2 months, and back near full strength by the beginning of the year, which should be before any of our enemies find out about the attack. Hokage-sama." Shikaku rested his head back on the table. Sarutobi nodded as he turned to a woman in her mid-20s, with wild-looking hair, fang-like tattoos on her face, and a light gray fur-lined jacket. "Sume, what the damage that the Inzuika clan suffered. Like the Nara, we suffered light to moderate losses, seeing as how several of our clan members were destroyed when they hit the beast. So we went to rescue any injured and evacuated them," she responded, which caused the Inzuka matriarch to turn to her right, following the gaze of the old Hokage, turning to a very large man who wore red armor with brown hair and swirls on his checks. "And the Akamenchi clan. Chozu, we suffered heavy losses due to the effectiveness of our techniques. Most of the damage was due to the beast chakra." The now identified Chozu responded. Nodding at the answer, Sarutobi then turned to a man in white robes, with long black hair and pupilless eyes. "How about you, Hiyashi? The Hyugas suffered light losses because the beast had no chakra points to close off. Unfortunately, several of your clan members are now blind due to the amount of chakra the beast had and could not shut off their Byakugan fast enough." The Hyuga clan head responded. "What about your clan Fugaku? The attack was both a blessing and a curse. We suffered heavy losses due to the effectiveness of our jutsu. However, due to the amount of ki the Kyuubi was releasing, a large amount of my clan members activated their Sharingan." The Uchiha clan head, he is wearing a larger version of Sasuke's Shippuden outfit, turning to the man onto Fugaku's right. "What of the Abrumai's Shin? We have suffered moderate losses due to the fact our Karachi bugs could not drain chakra fast enough. We also lost several colonies due to the fact that one of the tails destroyed 3 sheds." The man in the overcoat and sunglasses responds in a monotone voice. "And you, Inochi? We suffered moderate to light losses seeing as how we were mostly evacuating the civilians because of the uselessness of our clan's jutsus," responded a man with blonde hair and green eyes. "Alright Shikaku, I want you to come up with a new defense strategy. The rest have already received your assignments before the meeting. If that's all, then you are dismissed." "Hold on a minute Hiruzen," said a voice of the old warhawk, Danzo, who had the right side of his body wrapped in bandages due to an injury during the Second Shinobi War. "What are you going to do about the boy?" "Shit, how did Danzo find out?" Sarutobi thought as he had decided to keep the boy's condition a secret. "What boy are you talking about?" "Why, the one that has the Kyuubi sealed inside of him." Danzo responded with a slight smirk. With those very words the council room was immediately silenced, until several screams broke out from the civilian side for the boy's death while others were screaming to have him turned into a weapon. "Shut up," Sarutobi yelled while releasing massive amounts of Ki in the process. "Now we will not kill the boy nor will he be turned into a weapon," he said while looking at Danzo. "Hokage-sama, what will happen to the pup? Surely his parents have been notified?" asked Sume as she along with several other clan heads were actually worried about the boy's well-being. "Unfortunately, both of his parents have died in the attack." Before he could say anything else, several clans spoke up to adopt him. They were the Yamanaka clan, Insukia clan, Akamichi clan, Nara clan, and surprisingly the Hyuga clan. Before the old man could say anything, Fugaku shouted, "I will not allow that thing to upset the balance of power in the clans." Though inwardly he was praying that Danzo's plan would work. Not only would Konoha have its own weapon, but the Uchiha clan would be the rightful rulers of the village. "If Uchiha-san will not allow any of the clans to take him, maybe you should give him to me Hiruzen," Danzo said with the lightest of smirks. "I have already made a decision concerning Naruto. He will be placed," as everyone leaned forward to hear his decision, "in the orphanage." The third finished as he watched both Fugaku and Danzo frown in anger while the civilians just seethed with anger for not being able to end the threat of the fox. "If that is all, everything you heard here tonight is considered an S-ranked secret. You are dismissed." And with that the council meeting was over. Flashback no Jutsu Kai, man that was long. "Naruto, I am sorry for everything that I put you through. Please forgive me for the compromises I have had to make to keep you alive," the third said to himself as he turned back to the monumental piles of paperwork that needed to be finished. "I just hope that tonight you are safe," the old man thought as he signed another prisoner release form for one of Naruto's tormentors. Vote same time, play the song Castle of Glass by Linkin Park. The first don't own. We now find ourselves following our young hero as he is now running for his life. Why is he running? Well, he is trying to escape the massive mob that is chasing after him. "Get back here, demon," yelled one of the villagers. "Just leaves me alone," screamed Naruto, as he dodged another horribly thrown kunai by one of the drunken shinobi chasing him. "I have to get away, I will not just die out here," Naruto thought as he ran, unfortunately, into the walled-in section of the valley where the statues of Madara and the Shodem Hokage stood. Before he could make his escape back into the forest, he felt an excruciating amount of pain and blacked out. Sometime later our hero has woken up and notices his feet are no longer on the ground. Quickly looking around he notices that he is tied to a crudely made cross. The smell of alcohol permeates the air. As he looks down he notices that the wood piled beneath him is soaked. The remains of his super awesome orange stealth training jumpsuit is torn and covered in his blood, and the green cross necklace that the third said his mother gave to him still hung around his neck. He notices several of the drunken mob members are trying and failing to light several pieces of timber on fire, while the rest are lounging on the grass near the river like they are waiting for a show to start. Finally we can finish what the fourth started. Yay, I know when we get back to the village and tell them what we did we will become heroes. PP, please just let me go, I didn't do anything, Naruto said, feeling his emotions start to well up as tears sprung to his eyes. Let you go? Let you go? One of the ninja shouted. You killed my brother, you demon, and you know what, I'm going to kill you, he shouts as he rushes at Naruto with the torch in hand. No, I don't want to die. I can't die here. What about my friends? Tenten, Hana, and Lee. Even though Tenten and Lee are already a year ahead of me, and Hana is about to 4 years older than me, they still care about me, and I care about them, the Ichirukiyas. They have done so much for me and the old man, Naruto thought as the torch got closer and closer. Though no one noticed, the necklace began to glow green and the clouds gathered overhead. I refuse to die. Naruto said, his emotions welling up as the necklace glowed brighter, causing the torchbearer to stop and drop the torch as the rain began to pour down, extinguishing it. What trick are you trying to pull, Kyuubi? Kill it, quickly before it kills us, several of the villagers shout. Recovering from his shock, the no-name ninja reaches for a kunai. I refuse to die. Naruto shouts as he in a 10-yard radius became engulfed in the strange light. Soon the light shot into the sky and a rather large explosion blows wood, dirt and an arm holding a kunai backwards, knocking out the mob and sending several of them into some trees. Border of the vote. Less than half a mile away, 3 ninja are moving swiftly through the trees. Hurry up you guys, the town is only another 3 miles away. A man in a gray long-sleeved shirt with black pants and a yellow sash tied around his waist said, his gray eyes staring into the rain. I want to get some beer and soon. Shut up Marcus, just keep moving, I just want a warm bed and a hot, what the fuck is that? Yells a man with brown hair and green eyes wearing a black shirt, blue pants and has a rather large scroll tied to his back, pointing to the pillar of green light. I have no clue, Cho. What do you think, Renji? Answered Marcus as he stared at his redhead friend. Renji just looked at the light for a second and wondered, could it be? And he quickly flew to the location of the light. Renji? Hey Renji! Yelled Marcus as Renji flew by, Kami fucking damn it. Come on Cho, he might need our help. And with that Marcus took off after his friend. An easy delivery mission, 3 days there and 3 back, easy C-ranked mission. Easy fucking C-ranked mission my ass. Cho muttered as ran after his friends. 5 minutes later Renji, Marcus and Cho landed in the middle of the unconscious villagers. What the fuck happened here? Asked Marcus to no one in particular. Ignoring his friend, Renji moved to the still smoking crater, passing by the severed arm holding the kunai with the Konoha plate tied around the bicep. Walking to the edge, Renji quickly goes through 3 hand signs and says, Fuuten. Kunpu, wind style. Summer breeze. 1. A quick warm breeze blew away the surrounding smoke. Looking down he saw something that made his blood boil. In the crater lied a blonde-haired child, who was no older than 8. He was covered in cuts and bruises, and he was so skinny you could see his ribs. Unfortunately, that wasn't what pissed him off the most. What pissed him off was the 15 visible seals that he could see on the boy. 5 of which looked like they were recently removed by chakra overload. Of those that he could see, he saw 3 dead man seals, 1 low-level tracking seal, an intelligence repression seal, a growth restriction seal, 2 paralysis seal, a genjutsu seal, and the one that real took the cake was a genetic seal, 2. Seeing their friend standing at the edge of the crater, Marcus and Cho moved to him, noticing blood flowing down from his knuckles. Looking down they see why. In the name of all that is good and holy, who could have done such a thing, especially to a child? Marcus asked as he looks at Naruto. Noticing a green glow coming from the kid, Renji quickly moves down and checks out Naruto for a pulse, not that he is expecting to find one. To his surprise, there still is a pulse. Cho, get your ass down here, the kid is still alive. He yells up. Coming out of his shocked state, Cho quickly jumps down, unsealing a field medic kit and starts to preform medical ninjutsu on him. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Cho exclaims as he begins to heal Naruto. What is it? Renji asks as he pulls a piece of paper with the Uzumaki symbol on it from his bag. As he wipes some of Naruto's blood on the paper, it glows blue then green, which causes Renji's eyebrows to shoot up. The kid has more healed bones and spots on his organs than I can count. It looks like he's been used as a human punching bag. We'll ask him about that when he wakes up. He responds as he takes out a brush and ink and quickly makes 3 symbols and says, Fuinjutsu Kai, which causes the tracking seal to disappear. Picking up the boy, Cho says, come on, he needs rest, he will probably be awake in a day or 2. Yo Marcus, how far away was that town? 3 miles this way. He responds as they climb out of the crater. Renji, noticing the glowing green cross around his neck, raises his eyes in surprise but doesn't say anything, and with that the 3 travelers flee into the downpour. 30 minutes later, the 3rd Hokage and 2 squads of Anbu arrive on scene. Anbu take these people to the hospital and call Inochi to find out what happened and what that light was. The 3rd says, Hi Hokage-sama. They respond as he walks into the crater, looking around. The only thing in it is a scrape of orange. Minato, Kushina, I am sorry that I failed you. May your family live happily in the afterlife. 5 hours later, Inn of the Visible Man. Looking down at the small child on the bed, Renji sighs from the drain of removing a total of 8 seals. So how did it go? Asked the voice of Marcus from behind him. I have removed all but the Genjutsu seal and the genetics seal. Unfortunately, those two are out of my league. The only one who would be able to remove them would be my father. PFFTT. Marcus spits out the beer he was drinking. There are seals that you can't undo? Yes, I have only seen the genetic seal once, and that was in a book I was studying from. I never looked into it more for 2 reasons. 1, it causes unimaginable pain when it activates, and 2, you have to be sick to use it on someone. The Genjutsu seal is out of my league, and its position around the larger seal makes it extremely difficult to remove, though I think I've seen this work somewhere before. By the way, what is that larger seal? It just appeared as I started to heal him? Cho asked. I have no idea. Renji answered honestly. Though whoever made it is at least on par with my father or the Yandere Ho. Oh, you have to be fucking kidding me. Renji exclaims, face palming as he grabs his bag and starts to dig around in it for a certain scroll. Where is it? Where is it? Ah, here it is. He said as he pulled out a leather-bound book with several seals placed on it. Quickly biting his thumb and adding chakra to it, he placed it on the book, which opened with a poof. Flipping through the pages as he walked to the bed, he stopped and looked up from the book, to the boy, back to the book, and then back to the boy. Well, this is interesting, Renji said with a small smile. What is so interesting? Cho and Marcus asked at the same time. Come and take a look at the seals in this book and the seals on the boy, and compare the handwriting. Renji said. Both Cho and Marcus looked at the book. The picture they saw was an enlargement of the handle of a tri-pronged kunai. Looking at the handle, they noticed several seals placed on it. Looking over at the boy, they examined the 2 seals. Even though they weren't seal masters, they were shinobi. There isn't any difference in the writing, Marcus said in slight confusion. That's correct, because the man who made these seals, pointing to the boy, is exactly the same handwriting on the kunai in this book. So what does that mean? Cho asked. Where the hell is he going with this, he wondered. The man who made these seals, pause for dramatic effect, was none other than the 4th Hokage. Renji smirked as both of his friends' mouths hit the floor. But he died 8 years ago while fighting the Kyuubi. Cho said. Correct, that is why I believe we are looking at the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Well, if he is a Jinchuriki, that would explain why his insides looked like they did when we examined him, Cho said with tears coming to his eyes from remembering the damage that was done to the boy. That is not all, Renji says while looking at the boy. What else could there be, thought Cho and Marcus. He is also a member of the Uzumaki clan, he said, waiting for the words to sink in. Cho and Marcus just look at each other, then over to the kid on the bed and back to Renji. So you are telling me that this kid, pointing to Naruto, is your kin, pointing to Renji? Marcus asks. Renji nods. Well, I did not see that one coming. Ugh. They heard from behind them. Turning around, they noticed the boy was beginning to wake up. Looking around, the first thing Naruto realized is that he is neither back in the valley nor in the hospital. He then saw the 3 men standing by the bed and, understandably, freaked out. Who are you? Please don't hurt me, I didn't do nothing. Naruto said. His necklace started to glow again. Easy boy, easy, we aren't going to hurt you. We found you lying in a crater out in the woods. We brought you here and patched you up. My name is Marcus Ida. But everyone calls me Marcus. These men here are my teammates. Are you guys ninja? Naruto asked in childlike curiosity. Yes, we are boy. We are Team Merc. Now the man on my right is Cho and the man on my left is Renji. Now we are going to leave you here with Renji while we get you something to eat. Oh. Okay. Naruto nods, though with slight hesitation. Alright, come on Cho, let's go. Leaving the room quickly, Renji slowly approached the bed and kneeled down beside it. How about we introduce ourselves, would you like to go first? Renji asked, trying to break the ice. Okay. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, my likes. Or ramen. My necklace that my mother gave me, at least that what Hokage Jij says. Pranking, my friends, and cooking. My dislikes are the 3 minutes it takes to warm up the ramen, the villagers of Konoha, rapist, child abusers, and the old man when he is keeping something from me. My dream is to have a family and find out what happened to my parents. He says while fingering the jewel cross on his neck. Alright, my turn then. My name is Renji Uzumaki, you have the same last name as me. Naruto exclaimed. Yes it is, and after running a blood test it appears you are from the Uzumaki clan. Now before you ask if we abandoned you, we had no idea you were alive. My father and I only heard of one Uzumaki that lived in Konoha, and that was over 10 years ago. Renji explained when he saw the look in the boy's eye. Now where was I? Oh yes, my likes are training, drinking, pranking, my friends and my family, which now includes you, Naruto. My dislikes are arrogant people, hangovers and idiots that hurt innocents. My dream is to hopefully bring the Uzumaki clan back to the glory it originally had. Now Naruto, I have an offer for you, and this very important, so listen carefully. You can either come with us back to our village and we can find out who your mother was at our clan house. And we know your mother was an Uzumaki because only an Uzumaki can wear those, he says as he pulls out the same green crystal necklace in the shape of a four-pointed star. Or what? Naruto asked fearfully. Or we can bring you back to Konoha where you can return to your life like before. Naruto thought for a minute before speaking. Do you know why I am hated and why I can now remember some of Sinai-sensei lessons that I couldn't before? Hope burning in his blue eyes. We have our suspicion and I can tell you what it is. But we could be wrong, we would have to double check with my pops. As for the lessons, there were a number of seals on your body, some of theme restricting your mind and body, that we removed, and there are still some I can't personally remove but my old man can. Renji says, showing Naruto a picture of him with the seals covering his body. Are you sure you want to hear our guess? Yes, please tell me, Naruto asked with determination and nervousness in his voice. All right, but to do this I need a prop, Renji says as he walked over to his bag and began to dig through it and start to throw things across the room. Nope. A pair of pants, not it. A shirt lands on the lamp. Ouch. Damn the old man, I will have my revenge. He pulls out his arm with a rubber chicken with fake teeth biting down on his arm. Aha, here it is, he says as he pulls out a scroll. Walking back over to the bed, he sits down and unrolls the scroll. This, Naruto, is a sealing scroll. Whatever is placed on it goes into the scroll. Now this does not mean the scroll becomes said object or said object becomes the scroll, they're still separate objects. Renji explains as he seals and unseals a dagger. Our guess is that you are the jailer, or the scroll in this case, for the Kyuubi. Renji says, preparing for the explosion, but when one does not happen, Renji looks over and sees Naruto, who is just contemplating everything, just starts to shake his head. The villagers are retards, Naruto says. If they can't tell the scroll from the knife, they don't deserve my protection. The old man on the other hand knew and didn't tell me, allowed seals to be placed on me and did little to nothing to help me. He may have had good intentions. Buddha has lost all my trust and respect. Naruto spat out as he starts to remember the times his Ojiji would call him to his office and he would be knocked out. Renji-san, yes Naruto. I want to come with you. Alright, I will tell the others when they return, just eat and relax, we leave in the morning. After we get you some new clothes to replace your ruined jumpsuit. Thankfully his pants were only slashed, or we would have some people getting the wrong ideas when we ran into town with him. Renji thought. And with that Marcus and Cho re-entered carrying a tray filled with soup, bread, water, rice and crab cakes. As the night went on, the group entertained themselves by telling Naruto stories of their past missions, and Naruto told them of his past pranks, and slowly but surely he smiled a true smile. Naruto eventually drifted off to sleep and prayed that this was not a dream. 2 days later, Konoha. It has been 2 days since Naruto's disappearance, and for Sarutobi, in those 2 days the shit had literally hit the fan. The first and possibly worst thing that happened was the near total annihilation of the Uchiha clan by Itachi, who had used the investigation of the light to escape, leaving his 8-year-old brother, Sasuke, as the lone survivor in a coma. Then the Namikaze, Uzumaki compound, which the civilians had turned the gardens into a memorial park for the 4th while the clan mansion was still sealed, had sealed itself up. Not even Jiraiya could break those seals. Then to add to his pain, both the Uzumaki and Namikaze bank accounts, which provided 30% of the village's revenue combined, locked itself down so that the money was untouchable, which the civilians started to moan and bitch about. The biggest headache came from the meeting the day after Naruto's disappearance and Jiraiya's surprise return to the village. Flashback. Sarutobi sat in the Hokage's seat, had his elbows resting on the podium in front of him as he was gripping his head in an attempt to fight off his growing headache from the civilians and elder council. All right, that's enough. The third shouted, finally forcing the civilians to quiet down. Now are you all done bitching over items that we have no control over? Hokage-sama. A certain pink-haired woman screeched. What are we going to do? We just lost 30% of the village's funds and the boy has disappeared, and with the Uchiha clan nearly eliminated he had to have a part in it. She has a point, Hiruzen. While ignoring the last bit. We need to retrieve a new you-know-what since most of the other major villages have one or we will look weak in comparison. Danzo said as he turned to the Hokage. Before Sarutobi could even form a response to that, a large plume of smoke erupted from the center of the room. All the ninja in the room instantly prepared for an attack while the civilians cowered and the smoke cleared. Two figures could be seen. The first was a very large toad, and the second was a very pissed-off Jiraiya. Sensei. He said while looking directly at the third. We need to talk, now. Flashback Kai. Sarutobi sighed at thinking how pissed Jiraiya was when he was informed how several protection seals that Jiraiya, placed on Naruto were now gone and how if he did not get answers he would stop sending the old man free Icha books. With that threat hanging in the air, the old man folded like a house of cards. He had informed Jiraiya of how one day ago Naruto was ran out of the village, the weird explosion of light, the loss of the low-level tracking seal signal, and the torn remains of an orange jumpsuit that was found in the crater. It was then Jiraiya demanded to know why trackers were not sent out to look for him. Sarutobi informed him that there were no tracks leaving or entering the crater that was filled with water by that point, but also the rain washed away all tracks and scent. It was then Jiraiya told Sarutobi three things. 1. He would be out looking for Naruto and hopefully fix his 8-year-long mistake of not raising the boy, and going along with this stupid plan to follow Minato's last wish, like he should have as his godfather. 2. He would only step foot in Konoha if Naruto returned. A certain snake was in the area, or there was all-out war. Finally, for the next year all of Konoha was on an Icha ban. 95% of the male population and 45% of the female population had a horrible feeling pass through them. He had tried to get Jiraiya to reconsider on the last two. Especially the last one. But it didn't work and Jiraiya left via the window. Yay, everything is going to hell in a handbasket, the third thought as he went back to his paperwork. Streets of Konoha. We now switch our view from the Hokage's office to the beautiful market section of Konoha. Here you can find anything. Weapons, food stands, sellers of produce, and a giant crater where Jiraiya Rasagained the party that was being held in celebration of Naruto's disappearance. It is a little farther up that we find said man passed out drunk in the alley with two people standing in front of him. Lee, do you think he is okay? Asked a girl who appeared to be 8 or 9 years old in. Ye know what it is the same as in the anime, Tenten. I believe our friend here is just passed out. The other person, a boy no older than 8 or 9 dressed in a white karate gi answered as he picked up a conveniently placed tick and started to poke Jiraiya. Oh Tsunade Heimur. Hee. At hearing that laugh, Tenten knew that it was something bad since her mommy would always hit her daddy when he made that sound and reading that weird orange book. So she did what she thought her mama would do in this situation. She swung her left leg back to aimed and, ah. A high-pitched scream filled the air. Tenten, was that really necessary? Mommy always does it when daddy laughs like that, she responded as Lee went back to poking the now down man who was gripping his family jewels in extreme pain. Damn it kid, stop poking me, Jiraiya said as he stood up and gripped his head in ain looking at the two in front of him. You wouldn't happen to have some aspirin on ya? Lee just shook his head. Tenten, on the other hand, took a scroll out of her pocket and unsealed a med kit. Jiraiya R. Prize looked at her. You know sealing, and why do you have a hospital-grade med kit on you? He asked, actually surprised that someone so young knew such an advanced ninja art. No, just the basics. My parents own a weapon shop, so they taught me how to make a basic storage scroll, and one of my friends gets hurt often, so I always carry it with me. When he saw me use a scroll the first time, he wanted to learn how to seal, so I was going to teach him the basics of it, but we haven't seen him lately and we're worried. Do you know sealing? Do you think you could teach him? Kid, let me introduce myself. The area suddenly got dark except for one area which looked like it had a spotlight on it. I am the man all men envy and the one the women swoon over. I am the great Toad Sage of Mount Myoboku, the gallant Jiraiya the Toad Sage. Jiraiya said as he attempted to do his funky dance on the newly summoned toad. Unfortunately, being hung over, Jiraiya slipped and fell face first into the trash can in the alleyway. Getting up and dusting himself off, Jiraiya de-summoned the toad and turned to the children. "So, who is your friend?" Jiraiya asked as he got a bad feeling in his stomach. "Well, his name is Naruto Uzumaki," Lee answered, which caused Jiraiya's face to fall. "Is there anyone else that you know who is his friend?" "Yeah, Hana Inzuka, she hangs out with us sometimes and helps us trains when she is not too busy training." Tenten answered nervously because she knew Naruto wasn't well liked and was afraid she just got him in trouble. "Can you two please follow me to the Inzuka compound?" the Toad Sage asked. Lee and Tenten looked at each other and nodded before following him to the Inzuka home. Inzuka compound. A young girl of 15 years old, dressed in a beige medic uniform and black shorts, with two fang-like tattoos on her checks, her pulled back into a ponytail with the bangs falling down her face, was walking home from apprenticeship at her clan's veterinary. As she neared her house, she smelled something that made her mouth water, meat. As she opened the door, the smell intensified. "Hana, can you please come set the table?" "Yay, Mom, I will get right on it," Hana yelled back to her mother, Sume. "So Mom," Hana began, "how was your mission?" "It was fine, a couple of bandits and a few low-ranked nin, nothing too serious," Sume answered her daughter. Before Hana could continue, a knock came from the door. "Hana, can you get that? It is most likely Kiba and Akumaru, though I can't be too sure with the smell of meat and the spices." "I am on it, Mom," Hana responded. Upon arriving at the door, she looked out the peephole and saw two of her friends, Tenten and Lee, with some old guy with white hair who she recognized from her history book as Jiraiya. "Mom, it's Tenten and Lee along with a guy that I think is Jiraiya of the Sannin," Hana called to her mother. "Jiraiya? What is he doing here, and with Tenten and Lee, what is going on here?" Sume thought. "Well, don't just let them stand there, let them in," Sume said as she walked to the front door. Outside the door, Jiraiya had a number of thoughts going through his head. The first, how was he going to tell the kids? Second, does Sume already know, and if so, why had she not told Hana or the other two? And finally, if she didn't know, could he be the man to comfort her and possibly get her to pose for some of his research? John. Good old Jiraiya, a hero to men everywhere. Frying pan hits John in the face. After passing through a solid wall, "Me. Poor bastard. You ask me why you don't say that shit around my roommate's girlfriend, and that's why." Drags John back to the med bay. Rousing him from his thoughts, Jiraiya looked up as the door opened to reveal a smiling Hana and a smiling Sume. "Tenten, Lee, it's good to see you guys. Where's Naruto and why are you with Jiraiya-san?" Hana asked. "We don't know, Hana, all we know is that Jiraiya-sama asked us to follow him here," Lee answered as Hana led them into the living room. "So Jiraiya, what are you doing here with two of the pup's friends, no less?" Sume asked. "Before I tell you guys anything, let me ask you two questions, Sume-san. What is your opinion of Naruto, and were you at the last council meeting?" "Naruto?" Sume asked, surprised at the question. "He's a good pup, I have nothing against him and actually look in on him from time to time. As for your second question, no, I wasn't, I just got back from a mission about an hour ago. The clan rep still has to fill me in." "Why do you ask?" Sume answered, not liking where this was going. "Then let me save you the trouble of calling your rep. As of 2 days ago," Jiraiya began with tears coming to his eyes, "Naruto was declared missing, if not dead." "WHAAAAAT" was the collective yell from everyone, including Kuromaru, who just so happened to be walking by. Soon the questions were coming at him in rapid fire. Eventually he was able to get everyone to quiet back down and told them the story he had gotten from Sarutobi. When he came to the part of unusual power, he looked at Sume and just shook his head to answer her unasked question. When he was down, Tenten had broken down and began to cry while Sume moved to comfort her. Lee got up, walked 5 steps and fell to his knees in tears and shock. Kuromaru went over to comfort the boy. Hana was in a slightly better state than Tenten and moved over to her mother and Tenten and was enveloped in a hug that was soon joined by the Haimaru triplets, who sensed their partner's distress. While this was going on, Jiraiya just got up and walked out into the fading afternoon light to attend the private service that was being held for Naruto. Same time, islands 50 miles northeast of Nami no Kun. "Are we there yet?" asked a bored Naruto, who was now wearing a black long-sleeved shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on it, blue pants and a pair of running shoes in a black-green color scheme in place of his ruined jumpsuit. "No," answered the members of Team Merc for what felt like the 1000th time. Over the past 2 days Naruto was either carried by Marcus or Renji, and had asked non-stop questions about life as a ninja, what their village was like, and anything that came to his mind. Unfortunately, in Naruto's opinion only, the questions such as about the Uzumaki clan and the village had to be saved until they arrived. Riding from island to island on boats and sometimes crossing on foot bridges, they crested a rather large hill. That, Naruto, is the village of Uzushiogakure, the village hidden in the swirling tide. Renji said, pointing down to view the city below them. Looking at the sight below him, Naruto could only use one word to describe it: beautiful. The city, from what he could tell, was divided into two parts. The first, which was 1,000 feet below them and separated from the shore by a river with several large whirlpools in it, had a thick 7-story high ocean blue wall that had designs of shells and other sea items depicted on it. The wall went down to the water's edge where there were several docks located. From the far right to left, houses, shops and other buildings lined the streets in a swirl pattern which led to what appeared to be an exact replica of the Hokage Tower, except painted blue and with the same swirl pattern painted on it. And off to the left, in a lone island, a small bluff rose, and located in the center of the hill a Greek-styled temple was placed in the center of the bluff. The second part of the village was off to the right by a 75-degree angle. It too was surrounded by the same blue-colored stone with the same shell and swirl patterns in the exact same place as the others, and had whirlpools surrounding it in the bay area, though there were some open channels where the boats could go through. Unlike the other island that had small spaces of green near the outer edges, which Naruto assumed by the sizes of the ones near the edges were training grounds, and the center, this one had larger green areas that Naruto assumed were parks. Along with the parks, Naruto also noticed that the island was filled with places that reminded of the Hyuga compound that he used to prank. "Come on, Naruto. Let's go see my old man, he should be in his office at this moment," Renji said as he started to trudge towards the gates with Cho and Marcus following behind. "Hey Renji, you never told me what your dad's does." "Oh, he's the Sandaime Azukage," Renji replied nonchalantly. Naruto blinked once, twice, 3 times. "What? Oh, yay, I forgot to mention that," Renji responded. "Ye also forgot to mention that you are the Uzumaki representative and heir to the Uzumaki clan," Marcus threw his 2 cents in. It took 1 hour for the group to cross the bridge that separated the first part of the village of Uzushiagaruke from the main island. Upon flashing their eyes to the guards and explaining to them that Naruto was with them, they made their way to the tower. Naruto could not stop staring at the beauty of the village. Most of the houses and shops, he noticed, were painted in green, blue or white, giving the appearance to being underwater. Walking down the street, Naruto starts to notice something that he got in Konoha: stares and whispers. However, he noticed that, instead of hatred and disdain, these are filled with curiosity. Walking down the street, Naruto doesn't know how to react as people are actually smiling and waving to him. Renji, seeing Naruto act in such a way, feels anger and sadness rush through him. Anger for how the boy must have been treated, and sadness knowing no child should go through such things. He also notices both Cho and Marcus are reacting the same way. Unknown to the 4 travelers, a pair of golden eyes watch in curiosity. Upon seeing the young boy, whose hair reminds the Watcher of Sunlight, notices his distress and rushes to comfort him. Naruto was walking with his head down, trying to decide what to do. As he continued to ponder his situation, he felt something rub up against his leg. Looking down, he sees a small black kitten with a pair of deep golden eyes looking at him. Meow. The kitten meows, looking up at Naruto. Bending down, Naruto slowly starts to pet the little kitten. He slowly lets a small smile grace his face. Naruto picks up the kitten in his arms and begins to try to catch up to the group. "Hey, wait up," Naruto calls from behind. Turning around, both Cho and Marcus noticed the black kitten and how it was purring contentedly in his arms, and instantly turned around to hide their giggles. Renji, hearing them, turns to Naruto and just turned back. Both men had the same thought passing through their heads: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and Renji whipped his head around so fast everyone swore he got whiplash. Before he could say anything, he noticed how Naruto had calmed down and was enjoying himself in the kitten's presences. With a sigh and a small chuckle, Renji turned back around as they arrived at their destination. After what felt like forever, at least for Naruto, climbing stairs, they had finally reached the office of the Azukage. The outside to the office had 2 large thick oak doors that had looked like they had seen better days. I wonder how they got. Renji lifted his foot up and kicked the doors open. Oh, that's how. Hey Pops, we're back Tilda. Renji said in a sing-song voice as the old man looked up from his desk that surprisingly had only 3 sheets of paper on it. Renji, do you have to kick open the doors every damn time? The Azukage said, yep. Renji answered back, so was the mission successful? Hi Azukage-sama, Cho said as he pulled a small scroll from his pocket and handing it to the Sandaime Azukage. Before we get to the mission debriefing, may I ask who this is? Asked the Azukage. Oh yay. Renji started to scratch the back of his head. Naruto, let me introduce you to my two-san, and head of the Uzumaki clan Kasai. Uzumaki. Two-san, let me introduce you to Naruto Uzumaki. And so Renji told the story of how they saw the light and found Naruto, with Naruto filling in on how he arrived in the valley. To say Kasai was a little pissed was like saying Yuki no Kuni was only suffering a cold spell. Looking at Naruto, Kasai noticed the kitten sleeping in his arms. Yoruichi, the kitten perked up and looked at the Azukage. Can you turn back into your normal form please? With a nod the kitten jumped out of Naruto's arms and, poof. Where the kitten once stood now stood a girl, who appeared to be 10 years old with chocolate-colored skin, short purple hair, and was wearing a black shirt and a pair of black shorts and a white robe over the top with knee-length black socks and black ninja sandals. Hi, I'm Yoruichi. Yoruichi says to Naruto, who responds with an intelligible, how? With that Renji, who was standing by Kasai's chair, Kasai, Cho, and Marcus fell to the ground in laughter at the look of shock on Naruto's face. Oh well, because of my Kekai Genkai I can turn into a cat, and when I saw you on the street you looked scared, so I thought I would try to make you feel better. Also I was curious about you because I have never seen you before. After hearing that, tears started to stream from his eyes. Yoruichi was surprised at this. What's wrong? She asked. Oh, only a fei sob. Few people would be nick hick nice to me back in Konoha aaa. Thank hick you. While this was going on she did the only thing she could think of to make him feel comfortable, and she gave him a hug. After the tears stopped falling, Naruto looked to see both Kasai and Renji bawling on each other's shoulders. He also noticed a small tube fall out of Renji's pocket. Yoruichi, why don't you and Naruto go play in the park? I will send Renji to escort you to your home and Naruto to the Uzumaki clan compound. Now go on and have fun. If you do get hungry just have them charge it to my account. Kasai said as the two took off running, Naruto with tears of joy streaming down his face. Alright, is there anything else you need to report or is that it? Kasai asks as he sat down in his chair. Renji sends out a pulse of chakra to make sure they are alone, which he discovers that they are, and drops a seal on the ground that encompasses the whole room in a light green colored light. Pop, you might want to hang on to your hat for this one. And with that Renji told him everything from the strange light to the seals to their guess that he is a Jinchuriki. When all was said and done, Kasai leaned back and looked at the members of Team Merc. What was spoken here does not leave this room. Am I clear? Hi, they responded. Looking at the clock, Kasai made to shadow clones and told them to go prepare the sealing room in the compound. When they left he turned back to the others. Alright, you all are dismissed. Renji, go pick up dinner and Naruto and escort Yoruichi home. I will meet you back at the compound for the release. Got it, see you later old man. Renji responded before he and the others shoo-shooed away. Attempting to stand up and leave, Kasai realized that he was stuck in his chair. Kicking back and bending forward he saw a small tube and a note on the floor. Looking at the tube he read the name, Iroh's Iron Strength Superglue. Looking at the note he opened it and read, "This is payback for the chicken," with a chibi Renji holding the victory sign. Renji! Kasai screamed in anger, which could be heard on the outside of the tower. Several hours, a severe beatdown, and a trip to the hospital for both Renji, for the beatdown, and Naruto for a checkup, which they discovered he was extremely malnourished from eating only ramen. He was put on a non-ramen diet too, along with Rebji and Kasai, which caused all 3 Uzumakis to faint. They finally arrived at the compound. To say Naruto was shocked was an understatement. It was 3-story houses. Picture a southern-style plantation house with rice paper doors on the front and back, set at least 100 yards apart from each other. All 3 had the Uzumaki swirl painted on it, A large backyard that stretched up to a large stone fence that ended just shy of the cliff face and had a path leading down to what most likely was training grounds. Like your new home, Gaki? Renji asked, seeing Naruto's face. Hell yeah, it looks awesome. Alright, you two come on, we need to get those last two seals off tonight, but before we do that, we eat, Kasai said. Walking over to the table, the three sat down as a trio of shadow clones brought out 3 plates of Odin. Itadakimasu, they said before digging in. So, Naruto, I am going to guess that your life has been difficult. Kasai starts, so if you don't want to talk about it, I understand. If you need anyone to talk to, though, both me and Renji are here for you. With tears coming out of his eyes, Naruto mumbles a soft, thank you, you're welcome. Now do you have any questions? Yay, just one. From what I remember from the lessons at the academy, and from what I can gather from just looking around, I know there was Mito Uzumaki who was married to the first Hokage. But why do they have the Uzumaki clan symbol all over Konoha? And I know that most clans have origin stories, can you tell me ours? Both Renji and Kasai looked at the Naruto and smiled. Sure, kid, but we will do it in reverse. Now you know about the Sage of the Six Paths, right? Naruto nods. Good, that saves time. Now what you probably didn't know is that the sage had 3 kids, 2 sons and a daughter. Now one of the boys, Kaminar, grew up proud and arrogant, believing that the weak were there to serve the strong. The second boy, Chiku, grew up strong and wise, and he believed in the strong protecting the weak and the weak serving the strong. Now the third child, the daughter Hyuya, grew into a loving and caring woman that believed that everyone was strong as long as they had something to protect. As the years went by, the old sage realized that he was going to die, so before his death he called his 3 children and told them to ask him for anything and he would grant it. Kaminar asked for the ability to never be defeated in battle and to always learn what his opponents know. So the old sage gave him his eyes, turning them into a red pupil with a single tome in it. Chiku, who was jealous that he did not think of that, asked his father for a mind that would allow him to protect those who are too weak to protect themselves. So the sage gave him his wisdom, and soon plants started to grow where he wanted. When the daughter was asked, she answered, I want to be able to protect those that I love. He smiled at her and gave her his body, and most of his chakra, and an ability that prevented her brother from learning what she knows. A few days later, the old sage passed on after he made the bijus. After his death, the brothers left home to go and try their luck in the world. As the years went by, the island that was her home soon became more populated. She soon became friends with the daughter of a local farmer. One day, as they were walking along the beach, they were blinded by a bright light and saw 2 figures land on the sand ahead of them. Running over to see if they were injured, they noticed the men were dressed in odd clothing. The first looked to be a boy no older than 18, who had orange hair, was dressed in a black shiakusho with a black Tate RD code, and a pure black katana with a full manji for the guard. The other man, who looked to be in his early 20s and had black hair, blue eyes, a fur-lined black jacket, white shirt and black pants, and a scar running vertically over his left eye. After checking to see if both men were still alive, they dragged both of them back to town and into Hua's home. For 3 days and 3 nights neither man stirred until the 4th morning, when the man with orange hair awoke and saw Hua looking over him. A day later, the other man awoke with the hope watching him. They found out that their names were Ichigo and Kugo. Both could only remember their skills and some of their memories. After 2 years, Ichigo married Hua and Kugo married the Hope. They both soon discovered that their children possessed the power of Fullbringing and that of Soul Reapers. At this point, Renji notices Naruto's confused face. What's Fullbringing and what's Soul Reaper? Powers? Naruto, you remember the light that engulfed you? Kasai asks. Naruto nods. Good, that Naruto was one of the abilities of our Kekia Genkai. I will tell you the rest of them later after the story. Now where was I? Oh yes, they discovered their powers could be passed down. Now after that discovery, the 2 families decide to become one and create a clan, although their powers did change and eventually became our Kekia Genkia. Now this part gives you the answer to your second question. Now around the same time, 9 others' family moved into the area, and soon with their help we founded the first hidden village, Uzu Shiogakure, or the village hidden in the eddies. Those families were the Shiwan, Fan, Kuritetsu, Hira, Sakaku, Shimo, Sh Shin, Yakorkoro, and the Ishii clans. When Konoha was being formed, Mito was called to moderate the peace delegations between the Senju and the Uchiha clan, which led to her meeting the first Hokage and led to us being allied to them through Hashirama and Mito-sama marriage. We let them use our symbol as a sign of good faith that they would never forget about who helped found their village. Apparently that faith was misplaced. Afterwards our allies abandoned us during the Second Shinobi War, where we had to evacuate our original village and use a teleportation seal to transport everyone and everything important here while we held off the frontal assault with the other clans. We lost everyone from our clan except for me and Pops here. Renji says sadly as he concludes his story. So what does our Kekia Genkia do? Naruto asked after a few minutes. Our abilities are divided into 4 parts. The first is a high healing factor and large chakra capacity. The second is the ability of full brain. It allows us to separate our spiritual energy, or Riryoku, from our chakra to enhance our muscles to make our bodies slightly better than if we were to use chakra. 2. The only other clan to use this technique are the Fan and Shiwan clans, and they use it mainly for Shupo. We can also gather up this spiritual energy and release it into an attack we called Ten Kara no Koka. Descent from the heavens. 3. You used it apparently in the vote when you were tied up. The second stage is after you get your own Zanpakuto. It is called Shikai and allows you to learn the Bakudo spell. These allow you to bind an opponent in a hold with just Riryoku. It can still be overpowered with enough chakra, and your Zanpakuto gains a new ability. The third and final stage is Bankai. This release all of your restricted Riryoku and make all of your jutsus twice as deadly, and your Zanpakuto has a new form and abilities along with you being able to use Bakudo and the ability to use offensive moves called Hado. Now there is, supposedly, a 4th form, and it is only spoken in legends. It is called the Vizard form, where you gain all the powers that were available to Ichigo. 4. Do you have any more questions, Naruto? Kasai asked as his clones took their empty plates away. Nope. Naruto answered. All right then, it is time to remove the last few seals on you. And with that the 3 Uzumakis went to one of the back rooms that Naruto noticed had several seals on the wall, and a large seal array on the floor. All right, Naruto, we need you to take off your shirt so we can get to the last of the seals. As Naruto did what he was told, he sat down within the seal array. Kasai walked over to Naruto and kneeled in front of him, and channeled chakra into Naruto, which caused both the Shiki Fuin and the Genjutsu seal to appear on Naruto's stomach and the genetic seal to appear on his back. Seeing Shiki Fuin caused Kasai's eyes to widen in shock. Then he saw the genetic seal causing his anger to rise at an alarming rate. All right, Naruto, I'm going to remove the genetic seal first. 5. Unfortunately this is going to hurt, so I am sorry for this, he says, as he finishes painting the symbols on Naruto's back. Fuinjutsu Kai, Kasai yelled as he channeled chakra into the seal. Naruto beared the pain for as long as he could until it became too much, and he screamed out in pain until darkness claimed him. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of water was the first thing he heard as he came to. Okay, where the hell am I? I remember Kasai releasing the seal and then blacking out from the pain. So where am I? Did they abandon me here? Looking around, noticed he was in a sewer with pipes running in every direction. He then noticed a glow coming from one of the halls. Okay, so that must be the exit there, Naruto thought as he began walking towards the light. John. No. Naruto, don't go towards the light. Me. Get back to the room or I will follow through with my promise. John. Sweating profusely, I'm going, no need for that. After walking for a few minutes, Naruto emerged in a huge room with 3 exits and a large cage with the kanji for seal on it. What the fuck? Where is the Kami dam exit? Ha 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 ha. So my container has finally come to visit me. Looking back at the cage, Naruto saw a pair of huge red fox-like eyes staring at him. By chance are you the Kyuubi? No, I am the terror that flaps in the night, I am Batman. Of course I am the Kyuubi ninja. Kyuubi said as it stepped into the light. It was easily 50 stories tall and its tails were wrapped lazily behind it. Well, looks like Renji was right, Naruto mumbled when with his head down. So do you mind telling me where we are, and why the fuck you attacked Konoha, and who's Batman? We are in your mindscape, mortal. As for the Batman thing, I have no clue. I think the author was watching the DBZ Abridged, do not own, and thought it was funny. Stop breaking the fourth wall, damn it. Both look around and see no one. That never happened, agreed? Naruto nodded. Good, and as for why, well, I don't feel like telling you. I will tell you everything though when you are strong enough. Now be gone, for I am going back Tom my nap that. You interrupted, and remember this, you represent me, so you better grow strong or. Kyuubi let the threat hang in the air as he gave Naruto a foxy smile that showed off his teeth that were the size of a house. Nodding quickly, Naruto started to fade. The last thing he heard was the fox laughing at the look of horror that he had. Naruto, hey come on Naruto, wake up. Come on, wake up. Wake the fuck up. Renji yelled as Naruto opened his eyes. Thank Kami, Naruto, you scared us there for a minute. Sorry Renji, I was just talking with my tenant. Naruto said. Your tenant? Renji asked in confusion. Oh Kami, I was right. Damn, I'm sorry Naruto, I had hoped I was wrong. And, gee, no one deserves that, I don't know what to say. Except that you are Naruto Uzumaki and you are my family and not some giant fluffy fox. Renji said, same thing with me Naruto. Kasai said as both he and Renji gave Naruto a hug as tears of joy fell from his eyes. Now Naruto, we have one last thing to do, but before we do that you might want to take a look at yourself and then we will discuss what will happen next. Kasai said as he handed Naruto a mirror. Looking at the mirror, Naruto noticed that his hair had turned a deep orange and had red slashes running through it. His eyes were now slightly darker and his whisker marks were lighter. So this is the real me, huh? So what's the plan? Naruto asked. Well, after we add your name to the Whirl Stone, your body needs to heal from the damage those Kami thrice damned villagers did to you. Then we have to get you up to speed with everything so you can join the academy, if you want to be a ninja, next year, and before you ask, he said as Naruto was giving him the look. This will help us find out who your mother was because of Fuinjutsu. All the Uzumaki names are on that stone, and when a new Uzumaki name is added, their name goes under their mother or father's. Naruto just looked at Kasai with awe. Well come on, we need do the ritual before nightfall. Renji said as he helped Naruto raise to his feet and helped him out to the gardens behind the main house, where the stone sat. Alright Naruto, all you have to do is cut your palm and place your hand on the stone, everything else will come naturally. Renji said as he handed Naruto a kunai. Walking up to the stone, Naruto cut his palm and placed it upon the stone, then his world went white. Spirit World 6. Looking around, all Naruto only saw white. Turning around, he saw three figures approaching, two men and a woman. The men, when he saw them, recognized them from Renji's story as Ichigo and Kugo. The women, though he did not recognize, she had long red hair, purple eyes, pale skin, and she wore a dark-colored obi with a tan kimono blouse. K-ka-ka-san? Naruto stuttered out as he saw her approach. She nodded and rushed to give him a hug, which he returned, while still keeping his hand on the stone. Ichigo and Kugo let the two have their moment as Naruto kept repeating, Ka-san, I love you, over and over again as they both cried before the two separated. Kushina, it is time, both Ichigo and Kugo said. With a nod, Kugo stepped to Naruto's right shoulder and placed his hand on it, while Ichigo did the same on his left, while Kushina placed her hand on his head. Real world. While all this was happening, the glow that surrounded Naruto dimmed to where he was glowing like the moon and was not blinding them. He then spoke with his voice, mixed with Ichigo's, Kugo's, and Kushina's mixed together. I, Naruto Uzumaki, swear on my life and honor to protect those that I hold dear to my heart. To protect what I consider precious, and to always remember that even though the ones we love may be gone, they are still in our hearts. He said as the glow began to fade. Spirit World. As they finished speaking, both Ichigo and Kugo put their hands on Kushina's shoulders and said, we have given you 5 minutes of power, use it wisely before they faded. Sochi, I'm so sorry, she said as she began to cry. It's okay Ka-san, it's okay, he said as the two of them hugged. Ka-san, can you tell me who my two-san was? Sure Sochi, only if you tell me how your life in Konoha is okay. At this, Naruto's face fell. Sochi, what's wrong? Ka-san, I don't live in Konoha anymore. And so he told her everything from the hateful glares to how on his birthday he was beaten to how he was charged double to buy spoiled and rotten food up till the point where he was found by Renji. When he was done, Kushina had tears coming to her eyes. Sochi, we are so sorry, we didn't want this for you. I don't know why Jiraiya or Tsunade weren't there. Who are they? They were supposed to be your godparents, but it looks like we made the wrong choice. Sochi first. Chance you get out of Konoha. Ah, Kaz-san, I am already out of Konoha. I am now in Uzushiagaku with Renji and Kasai. Naru-chan, can you describe them to me? So he describes what Kasai and Renji look and act like. I can't believe they are still alive. Sochi, I want you to tell these two things. She says before she whispers them in his ear. Okay Ka-san, I will. So can you tell me about you and Tu-san? Well, for starters, besides me being your Ka-san, I like ramen, pranks. My family. I dislike perverts, most of the people in Konoha, those who go back on their word, Madaruteme. An interesting fact is that I was the second Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi after Mito for your Tu-san. He was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. She waited for Naruto to go off on her for how stupid and how much he hated the man. She was surprised when he asked, with his hair hiding his face in shadows, was there any other choice? For a minute she couldn't say anything before she spoke. No, there was no other choice. But he thought you would be treated as a hero. Well, he was an idiot for thinking that. I can understand since he had no other choice, but I won't forgive him. Not yet, at least for the hell he put me through. As he finished, he noticed that Kushina was starting to fade away. Well, looks like my time is up, Sochi. Before I go, I want you to know I love you with all my heart. And I am proud of you. And I will always be in your heart. And when you need help taming Fuzzy, I will do all I can. She said as she slowly fades. I love you to Ka-san, and I was glad I got to know you, he said as tears streamed down his face. Real world. After the light finally faded, Naruto stood up and looked down at the stone and saw his name and swirl right underneath his mother's. I should have seen it when you said you were from Konoha, Renji said as he face palmed when he saw that he was Kushina's son. So how did it go? Good, I got to talk to Ka-san, found out who my Tu-san was, added to more names to my shit list. Oh, I have a message for you. Too, Naruto said with his trademark foxy smile. Both men felt dread grip them. What is the message? Kasai asked nervously. And who is your Tu-san? Renji asked. My Tu-san was apparently the fourth Hokage, and Ka-san said that if I end up seeing her soon, she said that as soon as you to get up there, she is going to activate Plan 66. Both men paled at this. Renji, she also said to tell you, pineapple. That was too much for Renji as he soon lost consciousness. Kasai just chuckled, remembering that Renji spent a month in the hospital and 2 months in therapy from the horror of what Kushina did to him with a pineapple for stealing her ramen, as he grabbed his leg and dragged him up the steps to his room with Naruto following. It has been 4 days since the seals have been released, and Renji had noticed a change in the way Naruto was acting, and it wasn't for the better. At first he thought it was because Yoruichi couldn't hang out, but seeing the look on his face told Renji a different story. He just prayed to Kami that the infamous Uzumaki luck would help his plan that would take Naruto off of the path he was walking down. Play Monster from Skillet do not own. The next day, Naruto had just finished his morning workout routine when he felt something on his back. Turning around, he noticed that he was no longer in the Uzumaki compound, but was back in Konoha. However, he noticed that, instead of the usually clean city streets, the sky was filled with smoke from the fires that consumed the buildings around the square. Bodies littered the floor as he looked around and noticed that he was not alone. Less than 50 feet away from him, a man walked out of an alleyway as he cut down men, women, and children that ran in fear from him. Please, no, we're sorry. Have mercy, a man said as he shielded a young girl with his body as they backed up. Did you assholes show me mercy on my 5th, 7th, and 8th birthdays when you fuckers put me in the hospital? No, I am so sorry, but I am all out of mercy today, but I do have a sale on pain. The man in the shadows said as he stabbed the cowering man with his sword and sliced the girl behind the man in the leg as she turned and ran. As the man stepped from the shadows, Naruto saw that the man was a clone of him. Who are you? Me? I am you. Well, to be more specific, I am your anger, your rage, and your hatred. But you can call me Shade. Shade then began walking towards the limping girl and tripped her. As the girl tried to rise, Shade kicked her and sent her skidding several feet. What are you doing and where are we? What does it look like I am doing? I am extracting our revenge against Konoha in the form of blood. He answered as he raised the blade to cleave the crawling girl in two. You never answered my other question, where are we? Isn't it obvious we are in your mind? You do remember Renji asking you to help test out his emotion genjutsu seal the other night, right? Naruto nodded. Good, this seal tag allows the recipient to view their greatest desire, and your greatest desire is to destroy Konoha and have retribution against those that harmed you. Shade answered as he turned his attention back to the downed girl and smiled as he raised the katana to end her. Stop, Naruto yelled and grabbed his arm. What now? Oh, don't tell me you're going to be a bitch and forgive them? No, but death is too easy. Shade looked puzzled at this. What do you mean you already killed one of the bastards, so why not kill them all? Because it doesn't feel right. I don't know how nor do I know when, but we will get our revenge. And that was in self-defense. Well, we better, or I will take over and you will be just a memory. We will meet again, Naruto. Shade and the world began to fade. When Naruto blinked, he saw he had returned back to the Uzumaki compound. Once he established this wasn't a fake, he immediately fell to his knees and began to throw up. Naruto! Renji yelled as he ran to the young boy. Are you okay? Renji, it was horrible, Naruto said, and he began to tell him everything. I was afraid of this. Afraid of what, Renji? That you would let the darkness of revenge start to take over your heart. So what would you have me do? Forgive and forget, because there is no way in hell that is happening. Naruto yelled at him. Naruto, that is not what I meant. Naruto looked at him in confusion. What I think Renji is trying to say, Naruto, is don't forgive them, but do not let hate eat at your heart and soul. For hate begets hate, Kasai said from the stairs. Revenge is a dark path that will destroy any who walk down it. Naruto looked at Kasai and hung his head in shame. Naruto, Kasai-ben, are you still interested in being a ninja? Yes, more than anything in the world. All right, then listen up. All of our ninja force, myself included, has to have a psychological exam once every 4 months, and what you have gone through in your life would break a normal person and turn them into a raving lunatic. Naruto looked at him hesitantly and nodded. Then you also told us about the nightmares you have been having. Naruto, talking to us will only do you so much good. So to help you out, we talked to the head doctor at the hospital, and he recommended having you go see a therapist. You don't have to do this, but he said that it might help stop the nightmares. If you want to, I can arrange for the ninja Anbu course shrink have an appointment with you if you want. It's your call. I'll do it, Naruto answered. Okay, I will set the appointment up for tomorrow, but now we eat, Kasai said as he walked back into the house with Renji and Naruto following right behind. Time skip 8 months later, middle of August. Today we find Renji walking down the street towards the Ninja Academy with 3 children and a cat following behind him laughing. Behind him. So Naruto, are you looking forward to starting at the academy? Asked the kitten that was resting on his shoulders. Yep, I am a little nervous though and slightly disappointed about not being in the same class as you, Yuru-chan, or yours, Soy-chan, Naruto answered. He was wearing a black jacket. Look up Chris Brown's wall-to-wall music video and it is that one, with a green serpent on the back, a black shirt with the gold outline of a lion's head on the center, maroon red pants with black strips running up the side, and a pair of fingerless studded gloves on both of his hands, causing the kitten to blush and giggle. Not that he saw John. Is that even possible? I told you to stop, not call me that, yelled the girl behind him, who was wearing a black shirt with the kanji for B on the arm, blue shorts, her black hair cut short, and her gray eyes glaring menacingly at him. The look she was giving him was truly menacing, or it would have been if she wasn't for the blush adorning her cheeks. Ma, calm down, Soy-fan, and Naruto-kun. You know we can't be in the same class as them cause we are a year younger than them. The third girl answered. She had mint green hair, orange eyes, a white jacket with a green t-shirt, and a white skirt, told the two. Sorry, Fu-chan, I still wish we could be in the still class though. Naruto answered. Renji just smiled at the interaction between the kids. He was glad to see that Naruto was back to the annoying Gaki that traveled with him to Uzu all those months ago. It appears those therapy sessions have helped Naruto out. After the first session, the shrink said that he hadn't progressed too far into hatred that he would be lost, and after 8 months of 2-3 hour sessions a week that Naruto was able to let the hate go. Though he still harbored some anger towards the leaf, it was nothing he couldn't handle. He even tested it by having a shadow clone henge into a leaf shinobi and walked past Naruto in the street, and he ignored it. He was also happy to see that both Naruto and Fu were now in the average height and weight range for 8-year-olds going on 9. Naruto, he noticed, had put on a little bit of muscle that Renji still remembered the events leading up to him meeting Fu and her being adopted into the Fawn clan. Flashback. Crash. One of the wooden doors of the Azukage's office fell off its hinges as Renji and the other members of Team Merc entered the office. Yo Pops, what did you need to see us for? Yes, I have a mission that requires your expertise. That got all them to enter mission mode and stand at attention. What do you need us for, Azukage-sama? Asked Sho. A friend of mine's son has called in his favor. You are to head to Takigakure and speak to Shibuki. He will give you the details of your mission when you arrive. Hi Azukage-sama, they answered. 3 things before you depart: pack for high A to low S rank, keep your identities hidden and make sure you arrive there in 48 hours. Understood? They all nodded. Good, you leave in an hour, and Renji, the door is coming out of your pay. Flashback. Kai. I told the old man to put seals on the door, but did he listen? No, and I had to pay for it out of my sake money. Looking back, he saw Fu and Naruto laughing at something. Why do I get the sinking suspicion that something is me? He thought. He then remembered the first time he met Fu. Flashback. It had taken 12 hours of running at ninja speed, 20 hours of using the aid of summons, and another 11 hours and 50 minutes of running at top speed. And they had finally arrived at Takigakure with their brown cloak hoods pulled up and their faces covered by animal mask as their call signs. Cho was crane, Marcus was ape, and Renji was horse. Arriving at the gates, they were met by a young man with brown hair and ink-black eyes. The pull of the tide is constant, he said, but without the moon it is non-existent. Renji answered. Thank you for coming so quickly. My name is Shikyuki. I am the leader of the village. He said timidly as he bowed. Please follow me and I will fill you in on why we need help. He said as he led them to a small building that looked like it was a town hall. Walking in, they soon entered a room that looked like it was an office of some sorts. As of 48 hours ago, our sensor patrols detected groups of several Juini-level ninja entering the area. In total, there were about 20 of these groups with 3 in each group. Alright, that is suspicious, but what seems to be the trouble? Usually there wouldn't be any. We would send out several groups to observe them. However, we recently got an influx of missions from Konoha. Renji and the others frowned at the mention of the name. Because of the Uchiha massacre, most of them were high level, so we have few shinobi that could investigate this. So you want us to make sure there are no problems? Crane said. That would have been the case, unfortunately. A sensor group discovered all of the signatures gathering in a clearing 10 hours north of here. So you think they are planning to attack? Ape asked. It appears so. You want our help to defend this village? Horse stated. Shikyuki just nodded. All right, but we are going to catch some Z's first. Is that all right with you? Shikyuki nodded, and with that they left. Hotel room. 8 hours later. Renji was up and walking around the hotel room waiting for his tea to heat up while Marcus and Cho were still asleep. Until the sound of a bottle breaking the window caused all 3 to grab their mask and cloaks and spring to the door. Peering out, they saw a large mob chasing after a little girl. Okay, anyone else starting to get the feeling that we are about to have a major deja vu moment here? Renji asked. Yep, hell yes. Cho and Marcus responded. Might as well go and crash this party. Renj said as he closed the door and jumped through the broken window. Fu was running through the streets dodging bottles and rocks and, was that a cat? Why do they hate me? I never did anything to them, and what do they mean I hold the Nanabi? While she ran, she did not notice where she was going until it was too late. Thud. Looking up at what she ran into, she saw 3 men in cloaks and animal masks looking at her. Are you okay, child? The man in the horse masked her. Before Fu could answer, the mob had caught up to her. There it is. Get the demon. Those ninja have that monster. Monster where? Asked the ape-masked shinobi. It is right there. One of the mob members shouted while pointing at Fu, which caused her to get ready to run. The only monster I see are the ones hurting a little girl. Yelled Crane. Leave now and we won. Hurt you demon lovers. Yelled a nondescript man. Ape if you would. K. Ape said, and he gave a shrill whistle. Doden. Senju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Release. Double suicide decapitation technique. As 50 hands reached through the ground and pulled the crowd into the earth. Got to love Cage Bushin, it's such a great combo technique. Alright, come on, let's get her somewhere that Crane can heal her. Horse injected, and with that the three ninjas shushined with Fu back to the hotel room. Flashback Kai. Hey Aniki, when are we going to arrive at the academy? Naruto asked. We'll be there in like 5 minutes. Are you just that excited to start school? Renji asked. Yay, let's go with that. What are you planning, Gaki? Looking at Fu, he couldn't help but remember what happened 2 hours after they healed her and got her to sleep. Flashback. Running through the forest, 60 black forms rushed to Taki. Upon arriving at a clearing 10 miles from the village, the herd Doden. Chiku no Mero, Earth Release. Earth Maze. 1. Causing 5 70-foot walls to raise up and split the ninja into groups of 20. With Renji. What do you want? Turning to the exit, they saw Renji with his horse mask on. Sir, one of the blank-masked ninja said, if you would be so kind to step aside and point us in the direction of Taki's Jinchuriki, we would be most grateful. Yay, I can't do that. Then you had to die here. The ninja said as he and 5 other rushed horse. Pulling out his katana, Renji says, Yumi no Ryo Nush. Akumu o Osorit. Fear the Lord of Dreams. Nightmare. A large plume of black smoke covers the field and Renji. When the smoke dissipates, Renji is still standing where he was originally, but his sword had transformed into a black rapier with a charging stallion as the guard. Furudo Zentai de Shogidaoshi, stampede across the field. Renji said as he swung the rapier in front of him, causing 40 black stallions with manes of fire to start stampeding towards the ninja, catching the 5 that were running forward and trampling them in a wave of flames. The rest of the ninja jumped and tried to stick to the wall with chakra. They just slide down the wall. When the stampede ended, 3 ninja rushed him with ninjatus drawn. Stab, slash, parry. Each thrust was blocked as Renji just dodged and blocked each swing. One of the nin overextended. Renji slashed the man across the chest, causing his body to ignite into flames. Sheathing his weapon, Renji dodged another side slash and caught the man's arm. Kneeing him in the stomach, Renji used his weight to throw him into his partner before flashing through several hand signs as he called out Raiden. Saji Farashu, lightning release, surge flash. Fringing the 2 in air nin. Looking at the rest, Renji smiled as he charged the group and started a taijutsu brawl. Dodging a wild punch, Renji caught the man with an elbow to the neck and continued with his momentum and roundhoused kicked a man holding a kunai in the face, causing his mask to break and sending shards into his eye, blinding him. This continued for several minutes as he dispatched another 6 nin with several well-placed open hand shots and a few Ryotsu-enhanced punches. Before Renji could dispatch another nin, he felt a pain in his side. Looking over, he saw another blank-masked nin stabbing him with a kunai. It's over. The nin said, for you. Renji responded as he said, Bunshin Deibakuha. Shit. The nin yelled as the explosion went off. Well, that was fun. Renji said from his original position, looking down at the one nin he held by his throat, his eyes still bleeding because of the porcelain shard. Tell your boss that the Nanabi Jinchuriki is off limits. With Cho, I ask that you gentlemen lay our weapons down and yield. Cho asked as he entered the walled-in area with his hands in his pockets. Not going to happen, pal, so step aside and we might leave you alive. Replied a masked nin. You asked for it then. He said as he flashed through a set of hand signs. Kanton. Hibashiri, fire release, running fire. As he lashed out with a horizontal kick, sending a wheel of fire at his opponents before flashing through a second set and calling out. Fuuten. Daitopa, wind release. Great breakthrough. Thrusting his palms forward, causing the flame wheel to expand it into a speeding mass of flames, catching his opponents as it path, roasting them alive. Jumping back, Cho dodges 2 sets of hands as 2 of the blank-masked nin rise out of the ground and rush him. Cho smiles and says, gotcha. Both nin look in surprise as the ground they were standing on explodes. Kanton. Jiraijin, fire release. Minefield, Cho said, killing one of the nin in the explosion and blowing the other's left leg off to the kneecap. Great, I have a messenger. Tell your employer to not attempt this shit again, Cho said in a sickly calm voice as he knocked the man out and used medic ninjutsu to heal the leg. With Marcus, are you fellows going to be nice and surrender? Marcus asked as he held his hands behind his back. When the nin charged, Marcus just shook his head and gave a sad smile. Too bad you lot chose death. he said as he throws a lucerne hammer that he summoned from the seal on his arm, through the nin at the very back, pinning him to the rear wall. Before flashing throw a long set of hand signs, Doten. Namoryu no Jutsu, Earth Dragon Technique. A large rock and mud dragon rose from the ground and charged at the nin, who tried to use Kawarimi to escape but were surprised when nothing happened, and smashed into the middle of their ranks, killing many and causing the walls to crash down on the survivors. After a couple of minutes, Marcus pulled out a clay replica of the maze and smashed all but the rear wall, causing the remaining walls to turn into mud and fall apart. Walking to the trapped shinobi, Marcus said, "Take your wounded and go back from where you came, they have messages to deliver." As he pulled out the polearm, with that the nins grasped their legless compatriot and shushined away. "Well, that was fun," Marcus said as Cho started to look through the bodies. "Damn it, they only have standard mass order ninjatus, nothing good enough to add to my collection." Cho moans out as he replaces the large scroll on his back. "Come on, let's go back and report what happened." "What are we going to do about the kid?" Marcus asked. Renji just looked at him and smiled. "What do you think?" Flashback Kai. Renji pulled himself from his thoughts as they arrived at the academy. "All right, you four have fun, good luck, Kick-Ass and Naruto if get the others involved in a prank, make sure you don't get caught." "Sure thing, Renji Nissan." Naruto and Fu replied and gave him a hug as Soifan and Yoruichi, who had turned back into human form, waved and raced off to play on the obstacle course with Naruto and Fu right behind them. Turning and walking away, Renji saw Marcus and Cho seated at a local cafe. Walking over and joining them, he pulls out a flask and takes a deep gulp, before spitting it out on the other two. "What the fuck?" all three of them say. "Saltwater, where's my sake?" Renji asks. The other two look at each other before busting into laughter. "The Gaki finally got," Marcus said in his normal drawl. "Oh, he is so dead in today's training session," Renji said while laughing manically. "Think we should tell him his pants seat is missing?" Cho whispered. "Nah, let him find out," Marcus responded. In the academy, both Naruto and Fu were sitting inside the classroom with the other first-year students waiting for their teacher to arrive and start the class. The door slid open and three people walked in. The first wore a long-sleeved green shirt, a chunin vest, and silver-colored pants. He had short cropped black hair and brown eyes with a pair of glasses on his face. The second wore a short-sleeved light blue turtleneck, an unzipped windbreaker over his chunin vest, dark blue pants, and had a scarf obscuring the lower half of his face, his head covered by a straw hat. The third person to enter was a woman with long black hair, blue eyes, and she wore a simple green battle kimono with her chunin vest on the outside. "Good morning, students, my name is Chammo Ishii, and I will be teaching you the customs and cultures of the elemental countries. I will be teaching you chakra theory for the rest," the first man said as he stepped up and bowed slightly. "Good morning, Chammo sensei," everyone replied. "Hello everyone, my name is Davis Fawn, and I will be training you in Tai and Kenjutsu along with different projectile weapons for the next 8 years," the second man said as he followed his comrade's example. "Good morning, Davis sensei," the class responded. "Good day everyone, I am Sora Shimo, and I will be teaching you chakra control exercise," she said as she gave the class a bow. "Good morning, Sora sensei," the class said. "Now," Davis said, "we will tell you how the next 8 years of your life will be going. Every morning for 4 hours, for the next month and a half you will be studying the customs and laws of the 5 major villages along with several minor villages. After that you will study chakra theory and basics for the rest of your mornings until the end of the year. Which at the end we will find out your chakra nature. Every day after lunch you will report to the training field for Tai and weapons practice along with training your bodies. For your 2nd through 8th year you will have chakra practice and jutsu training every morning. By the end of your final year you all should have about low to mid chunin reserves. During the 3rd through 5th year a third of you will be put into the medic nin program. Fair warning, if you are a fangirl or fanboy I will make it my personal mission to break you," Sora said with an evil gleam in her eye. During your 6th through 8th year you all will be split into teams of 3 and go with an available junin and take on low D rank missions. Now all of you stand up. For each week we will assign your seats next to your fellow classmates so you get to know them. We will inform you of what is required to graduate during your 5th year," Chammo added. Now will everyone please stand up, and when we call your name take your seat from the lowest section on the left and fill in until you reach the end. Naruto quickly tuned out until it was he heard Fufan, Horatio 1, and Zachruto. After a couple more names he heard his own followed by John Kuritetsu, and Hiko Setagiwa. After they were called, Naruto took his seat on the far left. John, who wore a white shirt, black pants and a red sash tied to his arm, had black hair with green streaks in it and had green eyes, seated himself in the middle. Hiko, who wore a green short-sleeve shirt, black bike shorts, and had her blonde hair pulled into a pony tail, was at the end. We will give you 15 minutes to introduce yourselves to those sitting next to you, before we head out to the training ground to see where you stand in taijutsu and find out which style is right for you. Davis said with a sadistic grin. So who wants to go first? John asked. How about ladies first? Naruto suggested, looking at Hiko. Okay, my name is Hiko Setagiwa. My likes. Desk. In an attempt to restrain his anger, he was glad that after class he would see Doc cause he had something new to talk about. Alright, I will go next. My name is John Kuritetsu. My likes: kenjutsu, eating steak or any other type of meat, pranks, and my family. My dislikes are jerks, assholes, anyone who takes advantage of those who are weaker than them, and people who think that just because of their name that they are better than anyone else. My dream is to raise a family and hopefully find my ancestors' swords to restore my clan's true name, he said as he finished. I think we are going to get along just fine. Anyways, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are my friends, Yoruichi, Soifan, and Fu, Renji Nissan, Marcus Nissan, Cho Nissan, Kasai Gigi, ramen, cooking, gardening, and pranking. My dislikes are assholes who can't tell a scroll from a kunai that's sealed in it, those who abuse their power, those who abandon others, and those who harm innocents. Cool, John said while he was thinking, what did he mean by his assholes who can't tell the difference between a scroll and a kunai? While Hiko was wondering the same thing, and why did he react that way when she mentioned Tsunade and Konoha. After the 15-minute was up, they all went outside for the taijutsu exam. They were called in alphabetical order and the senseis would switch after each match so Davis and Chamo could rest. When Fu was called up, she got into the stance for the Fan clan's Arikoru Hachi, too. One hand in front of her left leg held down, the right arm pulled back against her side and her feet in a running position. Are you both ready? Sora asked. Hi. Yep, they responded. Hajime, she said. Fu immediately rushed Davis and began throwing quick-fire japs towards his face and chest, trying to catch him off guard. He blocked every shot until he fell for a left-right feint that got him to hits to the face and a shot to the chest, followed by a swift kick to the groin, causing Davis to collapse in pain, while Sora laughed her ass off and all of the males who saw it to wince. Sorry, Sensei, but you did say try to win, so I used any available opening. It's fine, you fought like a ninja, I didn't expect anything less. Sora, a little help here? Davis said with his voice a few octaves higher than usual. Most of the other fights weren't as good, except for Hiko's match where she numbed Chamo's leg with her mantis-style kung fu, and John's match where his Muay Thai got him put into a headlock where he bit down on Davis's arm and didn't let go and nailed him in the groin for the second time. Last up, Naruto Uzumaki called Chamo as Davis sat on the side with an ice pack on his groin. As Chamo got into his usual stance, Naruto got into the Doragon O Senkai 3 style. His legs spread shoulder-length apart, his left arm at a 45-degree angle in front of his face, and his right arm held loosely by his side. Ready, Hajime. With that, Naruto rushed forward and opened up with a spin kick that was blocked, followed immediately by a left uppercut with his right arm guarding his face at the exact same angle. Again, Chamo blocked, brining both of his arms to deflect the shots. As Naruto started to fall to the ground, he tried a Ryotsu charged overhand punch that caused Chamo to jump back, leaving a crater where he stood. Damn it. I still can't convert chakra to Ryotsu efficiently yet, Naruto thought, panting. Is that all you got, Uzumaki-san? I'm not finished yet. Naruto charged again, throwing a haymaker followed by a jump kick that Chamo ducked under. I have to use that move. Naruto rushed forward, throwing a spin kick which Chamo dodged, as Naruto brought his right arm in a slashing motion. Doragon Sarashu 4. Naruto yelled, sending Ryotsu into his fingers, giving them a bluish glow. Right before the attacks hit, it turns to red and sends sparks off, surprising Naruto and Chamo, allowing Naruto to graze him and send a small shock into him, numbing his legs. Everyone just stood there in shock. "Naruto, you know elemental manipulation?" Davis asked in surprised. "No. Then how did you do that?" asked Sora. "I don't know, I just channeled Ryotsu into my hand. And it happened." "All right, class dismissed for today. First through second year, Play Till I Collapse by Eminem don't own." As the first year went by, the academy students learned every law from Konoha to Kumo. They also learned the basics of chakra, how to draw it out, and the control exercise of leaf floating and tree walking. By the end of the year they had learned everything that a second-year academy student back in Konoha knows. They had also learned their elemental affinities and had been assigned to learn one E-rank elemental jutsu for next year. For Naruto, he had wind and lighting, Fu had earth, John had fire, Hiko had water, Horatio had earth, and Zach had fire. During the summer, Marcus lost a bet to Naruto that he couldn't get Renji to prank Kasai. He lost when Naruto blamed Kasai for replacing all of the Icha Icha books with gay porn, and blamed Renji for putting a stink bomb in Kasai's sake cupboard. So Marcus was forced to teach Naruto Kage Bushin, along with Bushin Daibakuha, and Kage Shrikuin no Jutsu. He also learned Fuuten, Kamikaze Kugeki, wind release, divine wind attack, that Renji recommended. Kazu expects a paper airplane to explode. John, covered in soot and smoking, do not give Naruto explosives. Me. Why? Massive explosion heard in background. John. That's why. Naruto had also gotten more control over his Reizu separation and could do it for 5 minutes, along with advancing into the third kata for his taijutsu style. Third through fourth year. During the third year, the students that were selected for the medical program were excused from the ninjutsu lesson, which was learning the basic kawarimi, and the students started to learn the different throwing and kenjutsu. They also learned some genjutsu and how to break them. Naruto still can't do them. They had also learned the steps for elemental chakra manipulation. During the summer they were assigned to learn a 2D ranked ninjutsu. Naruto learned how to use Fuuten, Kase no Purusu Kogeki, wind release, wind pulse attack, and Raiden, Seiteki Shaku, lightning release, static shock. Naruto also told both Soi Fan and Yoruichi his secret. He feared that they would run away and call him a demon. Instead they gave him a hug and just told him that it was all right. During this time Naruto had completed the third and was halfway through the fourth. He could also now use Ryotsu for 2 hours now. He also noticed Renji would sneak away at night and return passed out the next morning. Fifth through sixth year. Naruto had met the bane of his existence, the accursed low D-rank missions, though this did give him a chance to use some of his taijutsu techniques to aid in rock removal. It was also during this that Naruto found out that if he and Fu were put on a team it wouldn't work. Both were too stubborn to back down as to who would be leader. He also learned that he worked great with Hiko and John, which caused the three to become partners in crime when pranking people. At the end of the fifth year they were informed that at the end of the eighth year they would take a 2-part test. The first half being a combination of written, weapon skill, and preforming one elemental bunshin, one C-rank jutsu and one jutsu of their choice. During the summer of his 6th year, Naruto had outfoxed Renji and got to go to the local poker game. It was there that Naruto won 3 D-ranked jutsu for Fuuten and Raiden, 2 C-rank Fuuten jutsu, a B-ranked Raiden, and an A-rank Suiden jutsu. Renji made him promise not to learn anything above C-rank until he had better chakra control, which caused Naruto to make a bet against Renji to teach him water manipulation if he won the next hand, and if he lost he would buy Renji a year's worth of sake. Naruto won with a royal flush over Renji's 4 of a kind. He also started to learn basic kenjutsu for all types of swords. 7th through 8th year. We find our hero in the Uzumaki training ground, with 250 clones doing the tree walking exercise, a 100 doing water walking on the ocean below, and 50 practicing his 2 jutsu as he practiced instantly summoning Ryotsu. In his 7th year he had finally mastered all 6 katas of the Doragon O Senkai and its Ryaitsu techniques that went with it, along with mastering 10 Kara no Koka, descent from the heavens. He had also won 2 rank futon scrolls in Poker Night, though he did not have enough chakra control to use more than an elemental B-rank jutsu 3 times. Hey Naruto, you ready for your graduation exam tomorrow? Renji asked. Hell yay. Good cause, if you pass we have a special surprise for you. Kasai said. So go get ready for dinner cause your friends are coming over soon for a last-minute study session. With that, all 3 Uzumakis went inside wondering what tomorrow would hold. Konoha next day. A young boy, with sandy blonde hair, black eyes, wearing a gray shirt and black pants, is sitting behind a shed near the hot springs. He appeared to be looking through a homemade periscope that was connected to the wall of the women's side of the hot spring. Come on ladies, get out of the water and wash each other's backs. The boy said, with a perverse giggle at the end. Troublesome, Kane, what are you doing? Asked a voice, startling Kane, nearly causing him to drop the periscope and alert the women in there. Damn it, Shikamaru, you scared the hell out of me, he said as he glared at the pineapple-haired boy standing behind him. Maybe munch, you shouldn't munch be peeping on * munch women then, said the big-boned kid next to him. Quiet Shuai, do you want to bring the feminine fury done on us? Kane said as he looked around quite freaked out. Troublesome, anyway we wanted to remind you not to be late for the exam. Come on Choji, let's go. As soon as they left, Kane picked his periscope back up and looked back in the hot springs. Where did the girls go? He thought when he saw it was empty, then he felt it. Turning around, he saw the fiery aurora of pain surrounding the women who were just in the hot spring. So any last words you want to say before we pound you to the ground? Anko asked as she cracked her knuckles. Don't touch the face, he said as he quivered. Granted, and with that Kane got the beating of a lifetime, and his periscope shoved farther up his ass than the stick that's up. Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka called for the attendants as Kane dragged himself into the classroom. Said person responded. Looking at the scene through his crystal ball, Sarutobi could only frown at how he had failed to protect Naruto so he could be there today. Thinking about Naruto and Kane, he couldn't help but remember what happened 8 years ago. Flashback. You want to send our shinobi to do what? Sarutobi asked, making sure he heard correctly. We need a new Jinchuriki, so we, the shinobi council along with the elders, put it to a vote and everyone excluding Sume-san was for the idea. Said Inochi. And why was she against this? She was afraid that the new container would be treated like the Uzumaki boy, answered Hiyashi. However, to prevent this from happening we made this a shinobi and elder council matter only. Inochi added, unfortunately you are right, so I will approve the missions. However, this is considered black ops, so I will be sending 2 squads of 30 Junin to Taki, and 20 Anbu to Kirki like you suggested. This is not to be spoken in front of the civilians or anyone below Anbu rank. Am I understood? Hi Hokage-sama. Good, now leave, I have to figure out what is to be done once each squad returns. After spending several thinking over what is to be done and giving the squads their orders, he had the secretary call Kane, an 8-year-old orphan boy who was born 10 days after the Kyuubi attack. Because of the potent chakra in the air that night, Kane was born with a rare disease that made his coils invulnerable to Yuki, but also made them be half their size for his age. The boy had wanted to be a ninja, but because of the threat to his health the admittance board refused to let him enter the academy. After calling the boy in and talking to him, he told him of the mission and wanted to know if Kane would like to be the one to hold the Sanbi if the mission was successful. When he asked if it would allow him to be a ninja, and was told yes, he agreed to it immediately. 5 days later, the Anbu commander came rushing into his office. Sir, the team you wanted me to notify you about has returned. Good, send them in. Sir, I don't know how to tell you this, but they are all in the hospital at the moment, she said with a downcast look. After a minute the air was filled with the sound of Herzuan screaming. What? As he shunshined to the hospital. Arriving at the hospital he was quickly escorted to the ICU. Upon entering his heart sank. Instead of the rooms filled with wounded there were only 3 men, one in a chair with his shoulder wrapped and the other 2 in behind closed curtains. Hokage-sama. The man in the chair stood up and saluted. Shin, what happened? So Shin began to explain everything up to their arrival at the gates. Sarutobi just sat there in shock. 57 Junin killed in less than an hour and the foe did not even Break a sweat. Yea, they had the element of surprise, but to give that up and then decimate them was beyond belief. Sir, an owl-masked Anbu appeared inside the room. The second team has just returned. They report that even though they took moderate casualties, they succeeded. Okay, tell them to bring the parcel to sub-level 20 and find Kane and bring him to the tower. The Anbu nodded and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Flashback Kai. They had lost another 9 shinobi to capture and seal the Sanabi into the Trident for transport before it was sealed into Kane. Those 3 shinobi though still bugged Herzuin to no end, seeing as how even Jiraiya couldn't dig anything up on them. So he had them listed as S-ranked Ronin in the bingo book. Same time back in Uzu, we find our favorite ex-blonde was sitting behind a desk with a completed 1 hour and 30-minute long written test on the laws and customs of the hidden villages, and it was only 8 in the morning. Before this they had a 2-hour taijutsu exam. Well, it took over 2 hours for all the students to compete, and a 30-minute genjutsu exam to detect and dispel one that was placed on them. And everyone had to see a shrink before they had be declared fit to continue on to the written exam. To make matters worse, Fu, John, Hiko, and Horatio had arrived 30 minutes early. So here he was sitting trying to stifle a yawn as he waited for the test to be collected. Soon Chamo came around and collected the test. Okay everyone, you have an hour-long break before the next exam. Remember, in the next exam you have to show us 1 elemental bunshin, 1 C-ranked jutsu and 1 elemental jutsu that is either C rank or above of your affinity. He said as the 3 teachers disappeared into the next room to grade the test. As soon as they left, all of the students went off to either get a snack, use the bathroom, or find a quiet place to meditate, sleep. Naruto went with his friends outside and started to do a few quick stretches while everyone else went over to a tree and started to meditate. After finishing his stretches, he turned around and saw a scene that caused him to sweat drop. Fu had her back against the tree with her eyes closed. Hiko was leaning against Fu. John was in a group of branches that formed a natural basket and had his bandana placed over his eyes. And Horatio and Zack back to back supporting the other as they snored away. Well, what am I to do now? Naruto thought as he felt something brush against his leg. Looking down, Naruto saw a familiar black cat rubbing against his red pants. Bending down, he picked up the cat. What are you doing here, Yuru-chan? He asked as the cat snuggled against his maroon-colored shirt that has the Uzumaki swirl on it. What? I visit my dear friend to see how he is doing, Yoruichi said in her masculine cat voice. Good point. Anyway, I was just about to meditate. You mean sleep? When I noticed that if no one would be able to wake these guys up and we would miss the jutsu portion of the first test, Naruto said, totally ignoring the accusation while a look of embarrassment adorned his face. Well, why you don't just make a shadow clone to get you when 5 minutes before you have to return to class? Naruto blinked, once, twice, 3 times. Yuru-chan, you are a genius, Naruto exclaimed, hugging her close to his chest. His somewhat quiet outburst didn't wake anyone up, except John, who ended up falling face first out of his perch. After making the clone and giving it very specific instructions, cause of a one-time incident that nearly got all of the Uzumakis to get banned from the local ramen stand when the clone tried to take the whole stand back to the compound when Naruto told it to go get some ramen, took off his jacket and turned it into a makeshift pillow before laying down and letting himself be taken into the dream world. Yoruichi decided to take a quick cat nap and curled up on Naruto's stomach. 35 minutes later, Naruto was awoken by his clone. Once he woke Yoruichi up and bid her farewell, he went and woke up the others. Soon, everyone was up and snickering at the lump on John's head. They headed back to the academy for the final part of the first test. When they arrived, they all retook their seats and waited with the ones who had arrived before them for the last few stragglers. As the clock struck 9, all 3 teachers entered the room. All right everyone, Sora spoke up. The finale part of the first test is about to begin. Now I want all of you to sit in alphabetical order of your last names, and when the red light on the door turns green, the next person is to enter. Understood? Hi sensei, the class answered, as they left the room with a non-discrepant boy named Sho Abru. It was then Naruto noticed it would be a while before he was called to take the exam. 1 hour and 30 minutes later, Naruto was finally next in line and he did not have a clue if his friends had passed or failed. When the light turned from red to green, Naruto opened the door and walked in. The first thing he noticed was that in the back of the room were two doors, one on the left, one on the right, with Chamo, Sora, and Davis sitting behind a table that was in what appeared to be a seal array. What's the seal for? Oh, that is just to make sure we don't get hit by a stray jutsu. Naruto nodded at this. Alright, let's start with the elemental clone, Naruto. Chamo said. Nodding, Naruto flashed through the hand signs and said food and K's. Bunshin no jutsu, wind release, wind clone. Where Naruto stood, the wind had picked up and 5 clones formed out of the wind. Very nice. Naruto, now do a C rank non-elemental ninjutsu and 1 C rank or above. Elemental jutsu. David said with a nod. 4 of the clones pulled out shuriken and throw them, while the 5th flashed through the hand signs and called out cage shuriken no jutsu, multi-shadow shuriken. The original Naruto quickly flashed through a totally different set and called out Raiden. Kaminari shuriken, lightning release. Lightning shuriken. Causing the 4 shuriken that they threw to separate into 200 of them, sending down massive amounts of lightning bolts hit several chairs in the area. When it was over, there were originally 6 Narutos standing in front of teachers, now only stood 5 in front of a massive, scorched marked floor. As the teachers just stared in a complete shock at the slightly winded Naruto, he ordered his clones to disperse so he could recover his chakra from them. Well, that was impressive, but seeing the condition you were in, I am assuming that you haven't mastered that technique fully yet? Sora asked. Correct, sensei. I can only use Raiden Kaminari shuriken 3 times before the bolts start to lose power. He stated. Naruto, just how strong are your first 3 shoots? Chamo asked. Since he used the same jutsu on several occasions and the amount of control he showed, while impressive, would mean nothing if he could not do much damage to his target. Well, Chamo-sensei, with the first 3 bolts I can split a boulder in half, with the next 2 I can destroy an oak tree, and with the last one I can start a brush fire with it. Naruto answered, causing Chamo's eyes to widen. Even he couldn't split a boulder in 2 in one shot with the same technique. Thank you for that, Naruto. Now if you would find any chair that was not destroyed by your technique and have a seat. We will grade your test results and let you know if you advance or not in just a minute. Davis said as Naruto took a seat. Sora activated the silencing seal under the table so Naruto couldn't hear what they were saying. After 5 minutes they dropped the seal and turned back towards Naruto, looking at Naruto with a serious expression. Naruto, after taking in the results of all of your test results, we have only one thing to say. You, John. Well folks, another chapter finished. Hope you enjoyed the chapter. Turns and sees Eagle. Me. With a scowl that could beat Sasuke's. John. Hey boss man, what's up? Chuckles nervously. Me. Kyuubi, pull the switch. Kyuubi pulls switch. Floor underneath John falls away. John. Oh dear God, no, falls into pit. Mr. Rogers. Well, howdy neighbor, heard from the pit. Me. Sorry for the interruption, and I told him I would follow through with that threat from 2 chapters ago. Scream of Eminence's pain and anguish come from pit asterisk. Advance to the second part. Please step through the right-hand door, and good luck, Davis says with a smile. Thank you sensei, for everything, Naruto says as he shakes each of their hands before exiting the room. Upon entering the next room he saw that all of his friends had made it, along with several other students, bringing the grand total of those taking the second test to 20. After another 10 minutes the last student entered along with Davis, Sora, and Chamo-sensei. Congratulations to those of you who have made it this far. Now before the final portion of the test begins, each of you must sign one of these. Davis said as he began handing out forms, which pretty much stated, the school was not responsible for anything. After everyone had signed the forms they left everyone sitting there. After a couple of minutes Naruto, along with everyone else, started to feel sleepy. After about half an hour later every last person in the room was out like a light. Sometime later, the first thing Naruto heard when he woke up, the sounds of waves crashing against the shore. Now Naruto at first didn't find this suspicious, until he felt the sand beneath him. Wait 1 second, sand? His eyes shooting open he noticed that he was no longer in the classroom. He was on one of the few training islands that were a quarter mile off the coast, though still protected by the whirlpools. Looking Around he saw a survival pack, a scroll and a map. Rushing over to the pack, Naruto started to check for what was inside. He found to his good fortune 3 sets of sealed food, 12 smoke bomb tags, 12 flash bomb tags, a spool of ninja wire, a med kit, and a tinderbox. Looking over his person, he saw that he still had the gravity seal, still on level 2. Renji had placed on him along with the resistance seal. He noticed that in addition to these, his cross was still in place. However, on his arm was an unknown seal. Looking at the scroll, Naruto decided to open it. Once he read the contents, he was actually surprised by what it said. Dear students, congratulations on making it to the finale test. This test is taking place on Island 12. To pass, you must recover 3 maps, one of which you already have in your possession. Once you have all 3, the location of the finish zone will be revealed. In addition to recovering 2 other maps from your fellow students, you will also be hunted by 3 squads from last year's graduation class. Those squads are Squad Zeta, Squad Delta, Squad Omega. Fuck me sideways. He thought squads Zeta and Delta weren't much of a challenge since he pranked them several times when he was in the academy. No, the trouble laid with Squad Omega, Yoruichi and Soifan's squad. They had been paired up with some boy named TK and were a formidable team, although TK's mouth got him in trouble sometimes with the girls. Returning to the scroll, Naruto saw the rest was pretty much what would happen if one were detained by one of the squads, mostly loss of a set of items from the pack. 3rd time you lost your map piece, how the map could lead you to the other students, and how the unknown seal was designed to prevent usage of any jutsu of C rank or above, excluding clones. He also noticed that all of his shuriken and kunai were replaced with the blunted training set. Once he had finished reading, Naruto quickly made 4 paper airplanes out of the tags, 2 of each kind. He then created 4 clones, 3 cage bunchins and a case bunchin. Alright, here's the plan. You, pointing at one of the shadow clones, are going to be 15 feet behind me. If I run into trouble, you will disperse to inform the others. You two, pointing at the other 2 shadow clones. One of you will protect the wind clone, the other one will tell said clone when to throw and use the food and kamikaze kugeki, wind release, divine wind attack, so he can allow me to use other jutsu. You, turning to the wind clone, when one of these 2 tell you to use said jutsu to place one of the 4 planes where he told you. After giving the instructions, Naruto turned his attention to the map. After opening it and pouring chakra into, Naruto say the location of everyone and their map's location. To his surprise, he saw that Fu, Horatio, and Zack were racing towards each other, while John and Hiko were approaching each other, and they were about to be cornered in on all sides by 4 different genin. After making his decision, Naruto took off racing to the east using Ryotsu to speed him on his way. After 2 hours of traveling, Naruto checked the map and saw that he was only an hour away from where he was heading. That was when his danger sense kicked in, forcing him to dodge as a group of kunai sailed through where he was before. Damn it, I missed, said a voice that Naruto instantly knew. Fuck me, Naruto said under his breath. If that's what you want, Naruto-kun, responded a deep masculine voice coming from below and behind him on his left. That made him freeze and stutter with embarrassment. Fuck me sideways, Naruto shouted as he jumped a Vera black blur that shot underneath Hima as he latched onto the side of the tree via chakra. Looking dead ahead of him, he saw 2 members of Squad Omega, Yoruichi and TK. Looks kinda like Matt from Digimon. Where's Soi-chan? Naruto thought as he saw his clone land next to him. Before he could order the clone to disperse, it went up in smoke from taking a shot from Soi-fan. Jumping out of the way before the smoke cleared, Naruto leapt to the branches of another tree. Hey Yoru-chan, Soi-chan, TK, why are you after little old me? Naruto asked as he took the training kunai out of the bark. I told you not to call me that, Soi-fan said as she got into the Arakoru Hachi 1 stance as TK got into the first stance of tiger style. Ah, Naruto, you don't want to play with little old me? Yoruichi asked as she leapt, still in cat form, and started to chase Naruto through the trees, while Soi-fan was yelling at them to take this seriously. She got her wish when Naruto made 12 shadow clones and told them to go fight Soi-chan, which pissed her off more. That was all TK could take before he was gripping his sides from. Birds stopped their chirping. Nato took advantage of the distraction to Kawarimi with an airborne clone. That was when he got the info from one of his clones that an airborne flashbang tag was inbound. Naruto, excuse us for a minute, Yoruichi said as she had transformed back into her human mode, wearing the black backless sleeveless undershirt. Orange overshirt with white shoulder strips, a beige-colored sash and the same colored leg and wrist warmers, stretchy black pants, and brown shoes. She had also let her purple hair grow long, which she now had in a ponytail. Soy Fan had her to wrist blades drawn and had Shun-Pyo'd with Yoruichi over to TK, and both were giving him a death glare. Naruto, watch how a team works to take down a more experienced foe, Yoruichi said, stressing the word team, as she and Soy Fan began pounding TK into the ground with their fist. Seeing the distraction, Naruto took off running to where he was heading originally, leaving behind 10 clones. Once the girls were done beating TK and turned to face Naruto, the clones dispelled, leaving behind a small smokescreen. Neither noticed the paper airplane glow until boom, blinding and temporarily deafening them. 1 hour later, we find Naruto land at the edge of a clearing. Weird, the map said they were here, so where are they? Naruto wonders until he feels the breeze against his face and sees what might be a billowing cloak that has been stretched against someone with a red bandana. Real John, Naruto thinks with a deadpanned expression. Naruto makes a simple wind clone and tells it to go wake up the sleeping idiot, as they can clearly see the sleep bubble from here. As the clone crosses the field, it is soon stopped when it feels a kunai at its neck. Now you are going to, Naruto, what are you doing? Hiko says as she spins the clone around. I'm just doing what the boss told me to do, he said. Wake John up, the clone said, pointing to the sleeping swordsman. Oi, lazybones, get your ass up, Hiko yelled as John woke up and the wind clone dispersed. As Naruto walked out of the trees, he saw that the 4 students that tried to ambush John and Hiko earlier were still out. Alright, so what's the plan? We fight for the map piece or what? No, Naruto said, surprising them. I think this is a test to see if we can figure out our strengths and weakness. Remember when we would be separated in class for missions? They nodded at his statement. We always worked in groups of 3, and it was used to find out who could be paired with whom. Also, Yoruichi kind of dropped it as a big hint. So what do we do now? John asked. Well, we all got a piece of the map, so let's put them together. That should lead us to the finish line. Both John and Naruto nodded and did like she said. Once all 3 map pieces touched, a seal fused them together and showed a cliff in the middle of the island that was originally hidden under a genjutsu. Why do I feel like Renji had something to do with this? Kazi probably does, John answered as they began racing towards the tower in a triangle formation. John at point, with Naruto's 3 clones ahead of him, Naruto in the center and off to the right, and Hiko in bringing up the rear and lined up behind John. Oh, I forgot to mention, Yoruichi and Soy Fan are hunting us, Naruto said as they raced through the forest. You telling us this now? Cause the airhead forgot it earlier, John interjected as Naruto had storm clouds gathering over his head. Why do you guys do that? Cause you deserve it, they exclaimed. As they arrived at the central clearing, they stopped and let Naruto's clones head in before they got even 500 yards in. The clones went up in flames. Naruto flinched at what they saw. Clone view 5 seconds earlier. After walking out onto the field, they saw the members of Squad Omega standing in front of the cliffside cave that was their goal. The wind clone decided to throw all of the planes and call out food and Kamikaze Kugeki, wind release, divine wind attack, as the 3 planes chose a target and went after them, followed by flashing throw a long set of hand signs and whispering food and Fuatsu Sashitukai, wind release, wind pressure impediment, as it slammed its hands into the ground. The clone on the left pulled out a handful of shuriken and said, Raiden, Seiteke Shaku, lightning release, static shock, giving the 2 handful of shuriken a yellow glow as he threw them. The last clone flashed through the set of hand signs and called out food and K's no Purusu Kugeki, wind release, wind pulse attack, as it breathed out a baseball-sized green ball of wind that flew towards the group. TK smirked before he flashed through a set of hand signs and called out Kanton Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire release, grand fireball jutsu. launching the large flaming sphere at the attacks. It quickly engulfed them, and the clones that had never seen anything like this before, causing them to dispel. This also caused the tags to detonate, stunning them for a minute and causing a smokescreen. Back with the gang. After relaying what happened to the clones, everyone looked at each other. So they can use C-rank jutsu. John stated, apparently they can. Hiko replied, well, we have to defeat them separately. Unfortunately, it has to be on the open field because Yoruichi's and Soifan's fighting style give them an advantage amongst the trees. Naruto said, so who wants who? Dibs on Soifan, John said as he unsealed 3 training Dado katanas, tied his red bandana around his head like a cap and put one of the katanas in each hand and one in his mouth. I want to see if my training with my family style has finally paid off. Fine, then I got TK. Hiko said, I owe him a little payback for that one. Spar. Then that leaves Yoruichi to me then. They each nodded to the other as they rushed into the smoke. On the other side of the smoke wall, the members of Squad Omega were trying to get the spots out of their vision from the flash tag that went off. Damn it TK, you could have let the planes through, or you could have just destroyed the clones with a different jutsu. Soifan said as they pulled out the wads of cotton balls that from their ears. Well, sorry, I just thought this would be, holy shit. TK exclaimed as another set of glowing, sparking shuriken flew towards them. This caused all 3 of them to scatter from the projectiles, Yoruichi to the right, Soifan to the left, and TK ducked and ran forward. It was then they realized that those were too easy to dodge and expected some form of trap. What they did not expect the ground that they moved onto to give way and a strong gust of wind to come out of the hole, causing Yoruichi and Soifan to stumble, letting Naruto and John to emerge from the smoke and close the distance, while TK tripped and turned his fall to a roll, avoiding a heel drop from Hiko. High inside the cave, a group of Junin, Team Merc, the clan heads and the Azukage watched as the fight started to unfold. Well, this is going to be very interesting, Joe commented. Everyone in the room nodded in agreement. With John, the fight was turning into a stalemate for the past minute. Neither one was able to land a decisive hit on the other. Every one of his slashes, stabs, and thirst were blocked by her gauntlets. Soifan was in the same situation, as her blows were either blocked or dodged. She had nearly been caught by the third blade in his mouth when she tried to get close. She's good. Mind telling me what style you are using? Soifan asked, thinking that if she knew the style she could figure out the weakness. Fine by me, only if we finish this in the next move, cause my teammates might need my help. He answered. Agreed, she said as both got into their stances. Soifan began to channel her Ryotsu into her feet and gauntlets for a combination Shunpo technique. John put his 2 swords crossed in front of the one in his mouth. Oni Jiri, Demon Slash. 1. Hypasutingu, Hyper Sting. 2. They both called out as they disappeared from view and reappeared with their backs turned towards each other. The style is called Santoryu. 3. John said as he walked towards the Hiko who was finishing her fight, as Soifan fell, revealing a large bruise forming on her forehead. With Hiko, she was getting extremely pissed off as she threw a jab to hit one of TK's pressure points to cause his arm to lock up. Unfortunately, this was batted away by with an open hand strike. Is that all you got? TK taunted as Hiko dodged a roundhouse kick. Ah, did I hurt your feelings? Again no response, but he felt his right leg lock up. Wow, I didn't know you were into that, he said as he laughed perversely. He actually flinched when Hiko started to radiate ki. That was all she need. As she locked his arms up before flashing through a set of signs. Sweden. Babaru by Mew. Water release. Bubble beam, sending a stream of bubbles into his face, causing him to close his eyes and flinch in pain from the stinging sensation that the bubbles caused when they hit his face. Before he could use his medical training to unlock his pressure points, he felt immense pain emanating from his crotch. Why is that? Every time Yoruichi says something like that she just gets yelled at, but when I do it I get the shit beat out of me, he asked out loud. It's because you're a pervert, was the answer he got before being kicked over to Soifan, who was regaining conciseness, as John walked up. Had a good fight? Meh, it was pretty good, he answered before Both turned their attention to the fight between Naruto and Yoruichi. Naruto was getting extremely frustrated as the fight continued fighting. Every punch he threw was deflected and every kick was jumped over or missed. Finally Naruto throws a roundhouse kick, which Yoruichi quickly grabbed and launched him towards the cliff wall. Naruto quickly preformed a Kawarimi and used it to get in a position where he could intercept Yoruichi if she tried to make a break for the woods. Yoruichi say that when Naruto impacted the wall it turned out to be a log. Using Shunpo she races towards the forest. That is until she hears the call of Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu, and Fuuden, Kage Bunshin. 30 clone quickly jumped in front of her and 3 of the clones quickly charged forward and engaged her in a taijutsu fight, as the rest stood and waited for an opening to begin firing jutsu or rushing in to help their comrades. Soon one of the clones overextended a upper cut and Yoruichi throw him into another clone. That was all the opening the jutsu-wielding Kase clones needed as the fired off a barrage of Fuuden, Kase no Purusu Kugeki, wind release, wind pulse attack. As the green balls of air flew towards Yoruichi, the last clone tried to put her in a full Nelson. The plan was brilliant except the clone that pulled a Goku. If you have seen the show you know what I am talking about. Looked and discovered that instead of Yoruichi in the bind it was another clone. It was then the wind orbs impacted and destroyed the 2 clones in a poof of smoke. Before the other clones had time to digest the info they just received from the 2 destroyed clones, they were starting to get decimated as Yoruichi tore through their ranks. Wind clones went up in blades of wind that cut into her and the other clones, shadow clones, went up in smoke as they were destroyed by foe and fallen wind comrade alike. Soon Yoruichi emerged from the smoke cloud that obscured her vision. Her orange shirt was torn and cut. Naruto, if you wanted me to take my shirt off all you had to do was ask, she said as she removed her destroyed overshirt revealing the black backless sleeveless undershirt. It was then she heard 2 words that filled her with awe and fear: Doragon Doraibu. 3. In the cave all of the Jonin's eyes widened and those who had yet to select a team were drooling at the prospect of having this one. Only one in the back growled when he heard these words, only to be heard by Renji, Kasai, and the clan head of the Shiwan, and they all knew why. Flashback 3 years ago. It was the middle of summer, and we find Naruto hanging out with Yoruichi at her clan home, since Renji was on a mission and Kasai was busy at the tower. As they went inside for a drink one of the servants to the clan came running. Yoruichi-sama. This caused her eyes to twitch. Your cousin Izian has challenged your champion for the right to marry you, and unfortunately both your brother and father are way on a mission with the members of Team Stone and Team Merc. So you have 10 minutes to find a champion or you will be forced to marry him, the woman said with her head bowed. Yoruichi was panicking since she had less than 10 minutes to find someone to fight Izian. Naruto had absolutely no idea what was going on, turned to ask Yoruichi what the problem was. Saw she was heading towards the gate. He quickly ran after and caught up to her and asked what was going. After finding a brief explanation on how Izian was cold and calculating and most of all power hungry, they ran to find a Nuone to fight Aizen. After trying to find someone to fight as her champion they returned with their heads down. They know it would take 15 minutes of full out running to get to the Hokage tower from the compound, so they were forced to return before the time limit. Naruto, what are we going to do? Don't worry Yuru-chan, I will fight him for you as a proxy until your father and brother return. Renji did say that they would be returning by evening, and that's in like 5 minutes, and I will use everything, including that, to keep you from marrying that bastard. Naruto said looking at the sky, which Yoruichi saw that he was right. Looking over at her friend she could help but notice Naruto look around as if he heard something. Come on, Naruto, it's time, she said as she lead him to the training arena in the back. Picture high school football field. Sitting in a large box was an old man with long gray hair, green robes, and a bored expression on his face. Yoruichi-chan, have you found a champion? Yes, Gigi, though he won't be here until later, so Naruto here has volunteered to perform as a proxy and sub out until either Oni-san, Tu-san, or any of the members of Team Merc arrive. This cannot be allowed, said the man standing on the other side of the field. His brown hair and calm brown eyes stared at Naruto. Actually, it is allowed when someone of lower rank fights as a champion until a champion can be found that is of equal level, as it was laid down by Mai-sama. Yoruichi said confidently, the law also states that if your proxy loses it is equal to your champion loses. Said one of the elders. I approve of this, the old man stated, Diachi-sama, you can't be serious. I am, and once my son returns he will be clan head, for I am. This shall be a taijutsu only match, no gen, ken, or ninjutsu. Understood? Both Naruto and Aizen nodded. Then Hajime. Play Ignition AMV, anime fights don't own, as the words left his mouth. Naruto rushed forward with speed that was easily low. Chunin, taking Aizen by surprise and allowing Naruto to land a roundhouse kick to the side of Aizen's head, followed by an overhand punch to the head causing his head to go down. Getting a grip on his opponent's head, Naruto drove his knee into his Aizen's face, breaking his glasses and nose, and ending it with a Ryotsu-enhanced elbow to the stomach, throwing Aizen back 15 feet. After getting back into his stance, Naruto put up his guard as Aizen charged with a right hook. It smashed through Naruto's guard. For a full minute Naruto took blow after blow, but didn't give an inch as he used chakra to stick to the floor. It wasn't until Aizen came in for a chakra-enhanced heel drop that Naruto moved out of the path. The field was quickly obscured by dust from the impact. Damn it, I can't last much longer, Naruto thought. Then use my power ninja and use it to crush this worm. Kyuubi, child, do not listen to the fox, said a voice that sounded like the roar of thunder and the crackle of lightning. It will cause you to lose all you hold dear, said a second voice that sounded like the raging wind on a stormy night. Then what do you suggest? Naruto demanded. Use the move you have just learned, it is the only way. Fine, Naruto said. Outside of the dust, Aizen was smirking, thinking that he won until he heard Doragon Doraibu. The spiritual pressure that was released was felt 3 miles out of town by the members of Team Merc, Stone and Junin Bradley and Uryu Shiwan. They all thought one thing: we need to get to the origin of this now. This thought was also shared by the Azukage. Back at the fight, the spectators saw blue Ryotsu swirling like a storm around Naruto, before turning red and covering his body, having lightning arc off of his hands and wind swirl around his body like a form of armor. Naruto rushed forward at speeds that could rival a Junin and buried his fist in his opponent's stomach, sending Aizen flying back 70 feet, his body cut and sparking. This was the scene that Renji and the others came upon. Looking at the Bradley, Naruto let the move fade, before walking over and slapping his hand before saying, tag out, before passing out. Fallback Kai. Aizen was pissed that this runt was able to prevent him from taking the clan head seat. I will have what is rightfully mine. Back at the fight, Naruto accelerated through the smoke, looking exactly like he did on that fateful day, except there was no swirling wind. As he ran straight towards her, Yoruichi prepared for pain, though strangely it never came. Looking for Naruto, her eyes widened as she saw him running up the side of a cliff easily 60 feet in the air before leaping off at an angle that would put him in her general area and moving the flow of Ryotsu towards his lower body. The Genin, John and Hiko, and all of the Junin were confused at what he was doing until they heard Tenkara no Koka, Tengoku no Yajirushi, Descent from the Heavens, Heavenly Arrow, 4. Everyone's eyes shot up as they saw the normal green Ryotsu and the red sparking Ryotsu mix as Naruto descended towards the earth, instead of the usual massive bolt of descending energy. This one, everyone noted, was shaped like an arrow, leaving only a moderate-sized Ryotsu tail and a pyramid shape at the front where Naruto was, as he hit the earth, causing a large shock wave that caused Yoruichi to crash into her comrades as John and Hiko took shelter behind a rock. Emerging from the 30-foot crater, Naruto walked out, his jacket totally shredded, showing the vest that was lined with scroll holders and a kunai pouch with studs on the sides and shoulders. In the cave, everyone was stunned into silence. No one had seen a move like that, no one. The silence was soon broken by a calm female voice, Dibs. Looking at the source, everyone saw it was a young woman dressed in a silver t-shirt. The obsidian stone plate that had the Uzu swirl on it was strapped into her belt buckle, black pants and black combat boots. Her long brown hair cascaded around her shoulders, her Green eyes sparkled, and she also had a white eagle feather placed behind her ear and an eagle claw with the same two feathers on a necklace. She was Daniela Tengato, more commonly known as the Arashi no Shiro Washi, White Eagle of the Storm, because of her white lightning, which was rumored to be stronger than the infamous black lightning of Kumo. Does anyone have a problem with Daniela-san teaching this team? No one said anything. Aizen knew if he tried to get this team would fail because she was the best suited to. Unfortunately, one Junin decided to argue. Why should you teach this team? I think I would be better. The Junin smirked. 3 reasons why. 1. I am the strongest lightning user here. If Naruto has a different colored lightning like I do, he will need someone who knows how to bring it out. 2. I am good friends with several of the Kurotestu clan members, so I know what John will most likely do when he gets strong enough. He will probably go looking for his ancestors' swords. Also, I can help him with any special training his moves may need. And finally, the girl, Hiko, even though I don't know many water jutsu, I can teach her several medical ninjutsu, and if she is interested in genjutsu, I can teach her many of mine that are both area effect and single person. What offer do you bring to the table? She asked. The male Junin could only sputter before admitting defeat. So it is settled. The instructor of the squad containing Naruto Uzumaki, Hiko Setagiwa, and John Kurotetsu will be Daniela-san. Is everyone satisfied? I know we are, especially since they weren't taking us seriously. We have a long way, said a voice from the front of the cave. Everyone turned and saw the 3 newly minted genin carrying the 3 battered and bruised members of Omega. Naruto did. You have to use that move, and can you teach me it? Renji asked. Yay, because you did not tell me the way to loosen the seals, so I will not teach it to you until you tell me how to loosen them. The members of Team Merc smirked because of the bet they had. If Naruto got Renji to willingly give up his seal release command by the end of today, Renji would have to teach Naruto another A-rank jutsu of his choice. If Naruto failed, then he would buy all the members of Team Merc 1 round of their choice of alcohol. Eventually Renji caved, especially after Naruto asked if Kasai wanted a new way to beat Renji in their weekly spars. With that issue solved, Renji, Naruto, and Kasai, who left a shadow clone to deal with any problems, returned to the Uzumaki compound after dropping everyone off at the hospital to get checked up. Uzumaki compound 3 hours later. After a celebratory ramen dinner, we now find the 3 Uzumakis sitting in a room that has 2 large scrolls in the back of it. On one side of a table sat Renji and Kasai, on the other sat Naruto, and in between them was a thick block of forged black metal. Naruto, now that you are a certified ninja, it is time for you to have your own Zanpakuto. Naruto's eyes light up in excitement. Now here before you is soul metal. This metal is mined by us from the cave on the beach down the cliff. We do not know where it comes from, but the cave itself moved from the island of Uzu to here when we moved. Now to get your Zanpakuto, you most channel your Ryotsu into this, and it will take the form of your sword in its sealed state. Are you ready, Naruto? Yes, I am, Kasai-sama, Naruto answered with the most serious face. After placing his hands on the metal, Naruto began channeling as much Ryotsu as he could into the metal. Soon the pressure was causing Renji to grip his knees to prevent himself from toppling over. Soon the room was encased in a howling wind and a bright flash of light, and instead of the spirit metal ingot, there was now a set of twin hook swords. Picking up the blades, Naruto saw that the handles were wrapped in solid red leather, and on the base of the swords were 2 blood-red clothes. Giving them a few swings, Naruto felt as if the swords were an extension of his arms. All right, Naruto, come here, Renji said as he stood by the 2 scrolls. The first scroll was a deep green and had the image of scales carved into it. The second one was of different colors ranging from black to gray to yellow and had fur on the outside. These are the Uzumaki clan summoning scrolls, he said as he picked them up and laid them on the table. Now the first scroll is a complete scroll, the second one, however, is what is known as a divided scroll. Naruto gave him a, "What the fuck do you mean?" look. This scroll originally had 2 different clans that composed this scroll. However, the clans eventually broke away from each other and formed 2 different clans. Know this, Naruto, summons are not slaves or servants, they are partners, and if you fail to remember Then you could get yourself killed. So treat them with respect. So are you ready to sign? Yes, I am Aniki. Naruto said as he signed the green contract in blood, flipped through the hand signs and called out Kuchiyose no Jutsu. RRRRRROAR. 1. Refer to the chapter before. 2. Oni-jiri, Demon Slash. A high-speed attack where the user slashes his opponent with all three of his blades at once. A Sutengu, Hyper Sting, user sends Ryastsu into the bladed to give it an extra foot of reach while using Flash Step to get in before the foe can raise a guard. Doraibu, Dragon Drive, the base for all of the off-world dragon techniques. User summons her Ryatsu to surround their body for a few seconds to increase speed. The Ryatsu can be channeled to a certain part of the body for an increase in speed or power. Warning: extended use of this will start to destroy both the chakra network and the person's muscles. Kara no Koka. Tengoku no Yajirushi, Descent from the Heavens. Heavenly Arrow, Naruto's experimental version of Descent from the Heavens. By concentrating the combined force of Dragon Drive to increase the power behind his kick, while having the Descent from the Heaven act as an impact cushion to lessen the physical damage on the body. Using this will cause a major drain on chakra reserves to the point of chakra exhaustion or death. 3. Sword Style. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.